Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports as Ordered. And guess what, folks? It's opening night. And everybody's here except for Bradley Beal. Get in the game. How you going to load manage on the first night of the season? He's not even injured.
37 and 45.
Dude.
Lindsay, clip this. 37 and 45 for the Phoenix Suns. Clip it. Save it for me. Put it to the side.
Yo, but tonight, we're going to talk about the NFL. We're going to review last week. We're going to get into some college football playoff talk next week. Halloween is the first set of rankings. So we're going to walk through our rankings. We're going to talk about what's going on in the college football world. We're going to get a little bit more into the NBA. We did some talking the other night, but now it's here. So we're going to get a little deeper. And then, well, actually, I'm not even going to wait. I'm just going to say Michigan State. The next time you want to play trivia, leave Hitler out of it. And if you're going to bring Hitler into it, don't put his picture on the damn screen. Especially when Israel's at war right now.
Can't bring Hitler up, man.
Can't do it. Can't
No one's named their kid Adolf in Germany since 1940.
Can't coach with him. Can't
they
do trivia with him.
I lived in Germany for about 9 years post World War II. My dad was in the Army. We were stationed on Army base, Air Force base, and then my first enlistment. Well, my first base was Germany. There was no Adolf names. There was no statues. His quotes weren't etched in some walls. Maybe in some underground groups. It was pretty. It's pretty well acknowledged that even if you agree with any leverage of his ideology, whatever it may be, even if he says something like kids should eat bananas every day, even if Hitler said that, you would not go on TV and be like, Hitler said kids should eat bananas every day. You would say somebody else said it. So like it's very clear that is untouchable. Bill Burr said it the best. He was like, you look at Bill Burr's Hitler joke, you'll see like, okay, but you can't do it.
For one, they lost at home 49-0 to their rival.
That's I was about to say Germany lost at home.
No. Michigan State.
I thought you were talking about Germany lost at home, and you can't root for a team to lose at home. Okay.
For number two,
they lost at home too.
For number two, they were playing trivia in the stadium on the big screen, and they asked what country he was born in. And then, which is okay, that's a trivia question, whatever. But why you got a picture of him up on the screen? Like,
why is that part of Michigan State's allure?
Well, Michigan State's a bunch of degenerates. They out here raping women. They out here, like Tom Izzo is out here intimidating witnesses. Mel Tucker is masturbating on the phone with sexual assault advocates.
The world is weird. It's a strange. Like, I'm glad to be on top of the dirt versus underneath it, but it is strange. Like the stuff that people do, it is like, how many people didn't vet that trivia question? First of all, like, who cares where this dude is from? Ask a question about your coach or the starting quarterback. Where's the starting quarterback born? Like, that's a good trivia question. Or how many times have Michigan shut out Michigan State in East Lansing? Like, that's a good trivia question. I like that. Aflac, something like that. There's no reason for anybody to bring up Hitler unless you're talking about World War II. That's it.
And even then, you don't even need to say his name. You just say that dude in Germany.
His regime was long enough for you to have any kind of realistic conversation historically. If you're trying to talk about war, dictatorships, the phrase "absolute power corrupts absolutely," that's perfectly fine. It should be like, what was Hitler's dog's name? No one cares. That is not a trivia question you should ask at all. It is not important for the world to know. But
and we got 3-2 Diamondbacks, top of the seventh, up in Citizens Bank Field, up in Philly.
They're gonna burn the city down if Arizona wins, though.
Winner goes to the World Series. You know,
I hope they grease the poles like they did after the Super Bowl.
Suarez
before the Super Bowl.
Suarez got the start, 5 2/3, 6 hits and 2 earned runs. He got yanked out for Jeff Hoffman, and now we got Alvarado in the game. You know, so let's see. We got a base hit for Perdomo for Arizona. So anyway, get it off my chest. You know, we gonna share this one because, like, I think it's just an interesting discussion to have, even though I think it's stupid. So Emmanuel Acho, you know, Fox Sports fame, you know, talking about how Caleb Williams should sit out the rest of the season now that USC has no chance to win the national title. My takeaway from it is maybe they have a chance to win the national title if he doesn't throw 3 picks against Notre Dame. You know, maybe if, you know, their defense gets 1 stop against Utah, maybe they do. But you know what? That was their first Pac-12 loss. Now, I don't know how important it is in the grand scheme of things, but I would like to think that one of your goals coming into the season was to win the conference. So is that not good enough for a player of Caleb Williams' stature to, I don't want to sound like one of them people, but to honor his commitment?
Yeah, considering that he transferred from Oklahoma to USC to follow his coach who didn't honor his commitment. I don't know if commitment and honor are like 2 adjectives I would apply to this situation. I'll look at it objectively. Like I said, Mr. Logical, I look at things logically. I'll look at it this way. If there was a recent history in the NFL or like major drafts, NFL, NBA, where injured players were completely overlooked and taken off of draft boards, I would understand what Acho was getting at. If it was 1996 and the recovery time from surgeries wasn't as short, and the rehab, everything else, you gotta keep in mind, if you think about just in recent history, like nothing crazy, Adrian Peterson, who is, I think, genetically, like, he was built like his dad was a linebacker, his mother was a track star, he became an NFL running back. He had surgery January 1st and then started the NFL season and nearly broke Eric Dickerson's rushing record because he tore his ACL, PCL, and MCL. But he tore everything. So when they repaired it, they basically just gave him a new kneecap and all the accoutrement that came with it. Most recently, we'll go with Brock Purdy. I guess his injury was supposed to keep him out potentially 9 to 10 months, and he got injured late January or early February. He was ready to start the season, and even Aaron Rodgers with the Achilles. And I saw the video, and it zoomed in on, and you can see the rubber band, because your Achilles is essentially just a rubber band from your calf down to like your heel. So when it snaps, like, you can see the ripples up the back of your leg. And he's out there walking 2 weeks ago without crutches, throwing passes, and people were thinking like that was even impossible. So I get that the surgical part of any kind of injury does pan out. And historically, guys who are injured, I think Sam Bradford was injured. He had like a AC joint. They still drafted him because NFL teams look at like the bottom line. Like, if I get this guy, if he's not ready this year, I'll still have him on our roster, and I'll go 6-11, and then I'll have him. So I think if he wants to go into the season guaranteed to be healthy, then you sit out the rest of this year.
Speaking of, okay.
Yeah, but I don't think you sit, because you build a bond. Like, I've had 2 sons play football, and my oldest son graduated in 2020, so his last football game in high school was like November 2019. And I still have the pictures of him and his teammates. Like, they did like the senior walk. They walked from the goal line to the goal line to meet their family. So they're walking 100 yards, interlocked arms, moms are crying, dads are crying, little brothers are crying, little sisters are crying, players are crying, and it's like it's a very big moment to be that unit. And I think my son to this day, so that was 2019, like I said, like November 2019. I think his screensaver on his phone is still him at that game in his uniform, hugging his little brother, who is now in high school football on that same field, who was always on the sidelines. And he's not a real sentimental guy. Like, you know, I love my son, but he's not like a real sentimental kid. But that's still a screensaver. It's been 4 years. So I think that connection, that bond you have in that rectangle, it matters. So I understand injuries are a part of the sport. I just don't think that everything should be the bottom line, because what happens, we talk about the media, it's a matter versus, because the load management part of the NBA, we'll get to that too, is that, excuse me, or it's about championships. If you feel in muscle tightness, don't play because you're not going to be ready for the championship. But it's like, Doug, if you can't play through this muscle tightness in December, what makes you think you're going to be playing a great game in the middle of May?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't play through 2 tough games where you could have put your team in position to win and not played poorly, how say you just gonna slide? And that, you talk about this, and I'll let you elaborate on more. Just slide to some other NFL team, which historically most teams that are drafted number one, they are the worst team in the league, and they're bad at multiple positions. It's not like the Chiefs lose Travis Kelce and then all of a sudden they just fall apart and they get the number 1 seed. It's mostly like a team that's bad, that was probably already going to be 4-13, and they lose their players, and now they're 1-16. You're probably going to fire a coach. You're going to fire a GM. So when you hire a new coach, he's going to be the young, hot coach from another team. So you have no idea that the philosophy that the Bears run is going to fit Caleb Williams, or a philosophy that Arizona runs is going to fit you, or if they're going to keep. So I just think that just giving up on your football opportunity while you have it to just hopefully be drafted number 1 overall by a team that fits your skill set, I think it's a slippery slope. So
see, and I've come, well, speaking of AC joints, you know, Quinn Ewers 2 years in a row with the AC joint sprain. So, you know, I don't know about that, but
real quick, well, Quinn Ewers is another thing. He left high school early to go to Ohio State. Mm-hmm. So he missed graduation. Maybe he went back for prom, but he was out of high school for, you know, he wasn't a high schooler up until graduation. I don't know what he did logistically as far as if he flew back to the school to walk. I don't know if he flew back to Texas to be part of the prom, but as far as like just that whole build up, the poster boards, all the pictures you take with your classmates that you've been in, your friends and everybody else, he gave all that up to enroll early in Ohio State just to sit behind 2 guys who ended up going, you know, top in the draft, just to transfer back to Texas, which he could have done in the first place.
Mm-hmm. You know, so I didn't even know today. I learned today that Cam Rising started at Texas. I didn't even know that. But yeah, so Caleb Williams, you know, Acho, I just feel that Acho was just real irresponsible to even suggest that, you know, especially when whatever happened to competitive pride, you know, you just came out these last 2 games, you know, and got your shit kicked in by Notre Dame, you know, through 3 picks, just looked awful. You know, you came back out, played a lot better against Utah, lost on a last-second field goal, you know, as time was expiring. So it's not as if, you know, USC, like in your scenario that you were bringing up about the NFL, it's not as if their wide receivers got hurt. Yeah, like, you know, all that stuff like that. So, like, so I just feel it's so weird watching Chris Paul in a Golden State uniform, but you know, it's one of those things.
He was very aggressive to the hole a few seconds ago. That's what I was like.
I just think that one, you still have a chance to win your conference. They went out, they still play Washington, they still play Oregon. And by the way, both of those quarterbacks are in the Heisman race that, you won the trophy last year. So go out there, put your stamp, get back in that Heisman conversation, if that matters to you, or win the conference title that you didn't win last year because you lost to Utah twice. Maybe you get another crack at Utah. And I just think about it from Lincoln Riley's standpoint. Everybody's already pushing him to the NFL. Like Lincoln Riley is going to go to the NFL now. And
is it a Kingsbury deal where Kingsbury's on the staff?
Right.
So Kingsbury wasn't Kyler Murray's coach, obviously. Maybe he recruited him. Maybe he thought he can get him at Texas Tech.
I think Kyler Murray
is a Texas legend.
Yeah.
If you don't know anything about Kyler Murray, look up Kyler Murray at Allen High School in Texas. I think the numbers, 43-0 and 3 state
championships.
In the state of Texas. Texas is top 3 interchangeable between Florida and California, Texas, of best high school football in the country, which in turn makes them the best high school football in the world. And for 3 years, he didn't lose a single football game. He was dominant. So Lincoln Riley Kingsbury probably tried to get him to Texas Tech. So maybe USC knows. You bring in Kingsbury. He takes over for Lincoln Riley, and the Chicago Bears hire Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams, draft Caleb Williams, whatever the case may be. Yes, this is all crazy stuff. And I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be the first person to say this is going to happen again. Maybe I am the first person to say it. So, Lindsay, make sure we mark that.
We'll roll with that.
We'll roll with that. Because I think because the current wave of NFL owners, and this is something else because you and I have talked about it a lot. It's not something that I don't think regular people think about. Most of the NFL owners now aren't people who got it from grandpa. You got the Hunts in Kansas City. You got Morris and the Giants.
In New York.
You got Woody Johnson. I think it's been in their family for a while. Johnson & Johnson.
What, the Rooney's?
Rooney's in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati's team
is... Cincinnati is the same. Yeah, I think that wasn't Marge Scott, was it?
The Browns.
Paul Brown. Yeah.
So if you think about Cleveland Browns, that's a different group. Irsay with the Colts, that's been pretty substantial. It's pretty lengthy.
Yeah, his dad was in Baltimore, yeah.
The Jaguars is a owner. He had soccer teams.
Mm-hmm.
Con. So you have all the teams out west so what you're going to end up getting is the grandchild that inherits the Saints at some point is going to be like, I don't care about the lineage. I'll sell this team to this crypto guy who's going to give me $6.2 billion.
Right.
And that crypto guy is going to be like, I want to make this happen. I want to get Lincoln Riley. I want to draft Caleb. I'm not saying this happen next year, but that kind of combination, that kind of aggressive purchase, i.e., what David Tepper did to trade up to number 1 to get
Bryce Young.
Mm-hmm. It's like, we all knew that wasn't going to work if you're going to trade away your number 1 wide receiver. But to him, he gave Matt Rule a $67 million contract, 8 years. Like, no one does that. But to him, because I'm a money guy and I made my money, I bought this team, I can make this move. And everyone was like, no one gets 8-year deals for $60 million when they're unproven. He should have got a 4-year deal at $29 million and see what it could do. But you're going to get a lot of teams that are going to end up selling. The Broncos, they are a Walton purchase, the same as Kroenke, but his wife's a Walton. So you're gonna get a situation where that information might get to Caleb Williams that if you sit out, this team will make this move and they're going to hire your coach. And we already saw what Lincoln Riley would do because he was definitely at the game on Saturday coaching OU. And then him and Caleb Williams were flying private to California less than 40 hours.
And I know this ain't real life, but you know what I mean? If I was in the seat and he sat out, I don't want him on my team. You know, like it's one thing if, I don't know, say they're 8-3.
If you're a running back and you sit out, I get it.
No, period.
You're gonna get hit 20 times a game. I get it.
Right,
but you're a quarterback. You're a quarterback.
And you're elusive.
You're elusive. And no one's gonna devalue you if you hurt yourself.
Right.
We talked about Willis McGahee and Jameis Winston, a lot of the players, they had insurance policies, you know, on their bodies and knees and legs and injuries and things of that nature. But Caleb Williams, he doesn't take many big hits. He gets out of bounds. He does look like he is a upper echelon quarterback against his defense. The issue is that you look that way. We all expect it to be that way. Your performance has to reflect that. Mm-hmm. Justin Fields looked like a number 2 quarterback until Zach Wilson kind of came out of nowhere with just all this other rhetoric. Trevor Lawrence looked like a number 1 quarterback. Andrew Luck looked like number 1. Even with Robert Griffin III, when he was running around winning a Heisman and losing a few games, he still looked like a top 2 or 3 quarterback. Jared Goff kind of came out of nowhere. Carson Wentz kind of came out of nowhere. Matthew Stafford looked like a number 1 quarterback. He had the body, the arm. He was playing down in Georgia. He was from Texas. Like all these things kind of screamed number 1 quarterback. Caleb Williams is like 6 foot. I think they list him at like 6'1" and some change. He runs around a lot. He does a lot of Mahomes-esque kind of movements. So I think he could have hurt himself by sitting out because Drake May could go on a run.
Mm-hmm.
Or Marvin Harrison Jr. could go on a run.
Well, Drake May is also more of that prototypical, you know, type quarterback as well. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I mean, I think that Caleb Williams, because it was just a week ago where we were, not us, but we saw that, I can't remember who said it, but somebody in the sports media brought up the fact that he's the best quarterback prospect ever, and he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in the league year 1. You know, well, this ain't what I want to see from a top 10 quarterback.
That narrative is so irresponsible, considering in order for any quarterback to be top 10, for the most part, his either coaching staff, offensive line, wide receiver, receiving core, 2 out of 3 have to be top 10. If you're not guaranteed to have either a top 10 coach or a top 10 offensive line, or a top 10 offensive line, a top 10 wide receiver core, or a top 10 coach and a top, you know, whatever, one of those 3 different combinations, 2 of them have to be top 10. Like a top tier for it to work, because Justin Herbert in Los Angeles, his wide receiver core has always been top tier, which has made him perform better, which is not really, you know, been negative on Staley, because he's had that outlet to get it to those big wide receivers and big tight ends. But if you look at a guy like, we'll look at Bryce Young, he doesn't have any of that. His coaching staff isn't top tier. His wide receiver core is almost non-existent. His line isn't, and he's struggling. Desmond Ridder in Atlanta, he has a top 10 as far as like just size speed combination with Hollins, Drake London,
Kyle
Pitts, the receiving core, and then you add that with the Robinson, Algier, Patterson. They are all 3. They're like a matrix of each player. So you have Patterson, who is the older version of Bijan Robinson, and he's the older version of Algier because he's 6'2", 220. Algier is not as quick as Robinson, and Robinson's not as big as Patterson. And Patterson is the combination of both, but yet you still have Robinson and Algier could do the same thing. It's the same thing with like last year's wide receiver core in Minnesota. You had when they traded for Hockenson in division, we were like, what are you thinking, Detroit? But they had Jefferson, Hockenson, Dalvin Cook, and then a very level-headed, humbled Kirk Cousins he'll hit the check down. He'll trust Jefferson. He won't chew him out like a Derek Carr does when you miss a pass.
Right.
So like you have these different combinations. I don't know what team that Caleb Williams would end up at in the top, even if you slip to 4. Like right now, who's probably like off the top of your head? Denver can't draft a quarterback.
So you got Denver, Chicago, Arizona,
Carolina,
who's not going to draft a quarterback.
Carolina's not taking a quarterback. Arizona's not taking a quarterback unless they can definitively trade Kyler Murray.
Patriots probably wouldn't take Caleb Williams.
But Patriots are probably going to win 6 games off of just
Patriots
are going to get Patriots are going to get a game where they get 2 turnovers where those turnovers are going to lead to 14 points off the rip.
What about old Jordan Love?
Didn't they just pay him?
They did, but I mean, survey says
Green Bay doesn't have an owner. They have the whole shareholder thing.
Yeah.
That's
the Raiders, but they just paid Garoppolo.
Is Mark Davis stubborn or is he a visionary?
Yeah.
If he's a visionary, he will do. If he's a visionary, he will move from wherever they end up.
You would like to think Tennessee's not going to take another quarterback.
They can't. They can't. You can't. If I paid taxes to the state of Tennessee and they take another quarterback, I would submit a letter to the IRS of Tennessee and say, "Listen, I'm not paying taxes. And we got nothing to do with football. I'm just so upset with this state. I'm not even paying taxes." I think maybe Mark Davis, if they finish the year, because I think the Vegas Raiders. First of all, we talk about how boring they are.
Like, why are they on Monday Night Football next week? That's what I want to know.
I love Nevada. I love Las Vegas. I just don't know why. I don't know how they are as poorly presented on screen.
I don't know why they're on Monday. I don't know why they're on Monday Night Football next week, and I don't know why the Sunday. And I don't know why
Devontae
he's
Adams,
hurt. But
I don't. He's not hurt when they make the schedule.
I don't know who chose. Even if everything was right, I don't know who chose Bears Chargers as the Sunday night game either. It's time to start flexing.
Bears Chargers. Why would they do that?
It's time to start flexing. But anyway, so
Rich Eisen said that he was like that probably get flexed out. No. What game was supposed to get flexed out? It was a Denver. No, it was a Denver-Chicago game.
Chicago. I believed in Mr. Logical's team when he didn't, and me and Mr. Logical both, and I hope y'all didn't listen to me because I told y'all I was scared shitless about the Giants. I told y'all that. I know this team. This is what they do. Just like Jonathan Allen said, I'm sick of this shit. But let's get to Mr. Logical's team. What's going on with Bijan?
I know they're being investigated for something. For him not getting the ball.
So we were watching the game, I had texted you and I was like, yo, Bijan hasn't even got a carry yet.
I don't know what I was doing. No, I think I was okay. I was in here, I took a nap, woke up, and then I had the game on. And they were talking about how he led the team in rushes and receptions, but he hadn't gotten a touch.
Yeah, I had Red Zone on my Xbox, and I had Washington's game on my phone, and then I had like the Falcons game on my laptop, and so I was sitting there in my little command center, and I was watching the game.
Maybe he was late to a meeting as a rookie. Maybe he made a rookie mistake.
So around halftime, because I was watching the game, and but like I said, I had the red zone over here. I had Washington over here. So it was probably like my least paid attention to game. So, but I was like just looking at the game and I was like, yo, did Bijan get hurt? And I texted Adam, White Adam, and I was like, did Bijan get hurt? And he was like, I don't know what the hell's going on. So I went through my app and looked at the box score and I was like, yo, he really doesn't have a carry right now.
He was in the game. He was in the game. He was in formation next to Desmond Ridder, 1st and 10. The commentator, like Mark Schlereth, because I think what Fox does is I think they attach like a tandem of commentators to certain teams. So, because Mark Schlereth seems to be last couple of years.
Yeah, somehow Troy Aikman used to always get the Dallas games.
Always in the Dallas game. And then Mark Schlereth, for some reason, is getting he's gotten a lot of Atlanta games. I don't know if that's like definitive, but he seems to be getting a lot of Atlanta games. He said the same thing. So I was just like, well, they're obviously going to give it to him now because he said the most touches and everything else. I don't know, but like I said, I talked about I wish I would have taken advantage to be a coach in football when those opportunities present themselves, because not as far as the ego, but just I think I've sat around and watched enough, and I've watched so many, granted, youth football games, high school football games, and I can see, like I've sat in my whatever I'm at. I'm at the high school game. I'm at the youth game. I'm watching on TV. I'm like, I know this is not what you need to do, but it's like, this is the play's going this way. Mm-hmm. And I know that that's not the end all be all of coaching. I know there's so many layers and nuance to it.
Right.
But with that being said, if we get to that, and I didn't go through any of that, and I can sit here and like I literally had to scream at my son's high school game last week. Stop calling the screen pass. Like when it was quiet. Like it's dead quiet. I literally screamed out, stop calling that screen pass. What they do when they got the ball back? Called it. Didn't
screen
work.
Pass. Yeah, so I had the sound on red zone, but not on the other two. And right before halftime, Scott Hansen got on and said that the Falcons were saying that Bijan had some kind of illness. And that was all we got, so then
diarrhea, which is fine. I mean, so then you got to put him out there though to make him look like a threat, because like I said, that combination, Bijan and Tyler Algier combined is Cordero Patterson. Cordero Patterson got a lot of touches in that game. And that's the benefit of what Atlanta has offensively, which frustrates me more. Granted, I know it's just a video game, but I play Madden. I put each one of them in, and I play them in different positions. And it's like, if you think about Miami, if Miami only threw passes to Tyreek Hill, you'd be like, yo, Mostert, A-Chain, Waddle are just as fast as Tyreek.
Jeff Wilson.
So whatever route or whatever play or whatever
Berrios,
whatever Berrios is shifty because he's a former punt returner. I don't know what his 40 time is, but I know as a former punt returner, he has a knack of getting open in space. Some guys,
he fast. He went to Miami.
And just like what's the boy say? Mike McDaniels, he was like, "Yeah, he's pretty fast."
Yeah, So that was going on my TV, and like I said, Washington was out here shitting it away against the team with the least amount of sacks in the league. Still got 6 of them, and then
Sam Howell has to get the check down. Bieniemy, like I think he's trying to get Bieniemy fired.
I hope not. You need to get Rivera fired. That's what needs to happen. But we'll get to the hot seat in a minute. We'll get to the hot seat in a minute.
Yeah, we'll get.
But yeah, New England over Buffalo. Josh Allen does it again, playing to the level of their competition.
You said Josh Allen being Josh Allen.
Yeah, he threw one of the dumbest picks I ever saw. Like the pick
when you texted me that, in my mind, it was a picture that was someone posted in our chat group or sports group. Josh Allen, the defensive end for the Jaguars, trying to sack Josh Allen.
Yeah.
So when you text that to me, when I read it, that's the picture I had in my head when I first read it. But then obviously I realized like, oh,
no, like he the problem with his interceptions, right? Because everybody throws interceptions,
every single
like
player.
every single
Joe
player,
Montana threw him.
even the
Contrary to
dudes
popular
that
belief, he was not perfect.
Aaron Rodgers had seasons where he only threw like 8 or something, but he still threw them, But when Josh Allen throws interceptions, I just look at it and I say to myself, did he just start year 2? Like he throws an interception that I would expect Kenny Pickett to throw.
He throws interceptions as if he throws the ball so hard that the defense can't catch it.
Like he thinks he's throwing it through a portal and it's just going to end up in the receiver's hands.
Yeah, I think he just thinks like, oh, these guys, they don't catch it at defense. They don't catch it in practice on Wednesday because I throw the ball so hard because I am a strong arm quarterback.
But even with that, they still had a chance to win late. New England almost gave that away.
Of course, because New England they were 1-5 before that game. Everyone has a chance to win because they're 1-5, and of their 6 opportunities prior to that, the other 5 teams won. So you shouldn't be in a position where you have a chance to win, i.e., even the weekend before, where, granted, I didn't believe the pass interference call in the Giants Bills game that got them the untimed down from the 1 was warranted. I thought it was maybe close. I did think the hold occurred, but like I text you every single time I see that, it's like you had 59 minutes to score more than 9 points.
Right. And I mean, even though they beat us, they still only scored 14, so that's just what the Giants are at this point. But shout out to Bill Belichick, win number 300, third coach of all time.
Excited. He was excited too.
Yeah,
It's like Bill, I think a lot of times maybe he probably should give up the GM piece because I think about like my own life. Like I'm 42 years old. I've kind of set in my ways. So if I was building something and I felt like, for the last 15 years I've been doing it this way. And it's like, yeah, dog, but you haven't adjusted since 2007, 2008. And then you can give me evidence to support, from 2020 to 2023, this is what you got. I'd have to give it up. I'm not sure, considering that in all that time, the 6 Super Bowl championships might be tough. I don't know what his respect level with him and Robert Kraft. I don't know what's the matter of, I respect you because you won us those 6 Super Bowls. I respect you because I respect you as a coach. So it might be tough to say, you know what, you're no longer going to be the GM and making the picks.
Right. Well, they extended him before the season, apparently, that we just found out about. So as the coach,
think about what coach can get them to 2-5.
Mm-hmm.
Is Brandon Staley coaching them to 2-5 right now?
No.
Is Ron Rivera getting that? Think about that lineup. Think about Juju being your big offseason wide receiver acquisition. And can you tell me how many games he has more than 3 catches in? Has he been on the field? Does he have a highlight?
He's been on the field. He doesn't have any highlights.
Tyreek has a highlight. We see those.
Well, speaking of
Tyreek, has highlights. Addison has highlights.
I had to. Addison took that ball from Ward last night. Hey,
exactly.
I had to piss off our loyal resident Dolphin fan, because,
of course,
because of course, I picked Philly to win the other night, and
that's not a crazy pick.
And then no. But so after the game, I had the privilege of pointing out that when you add up Miami's win-loss record of their opponents, you get the 8-25. And
the beauty part was like, of those teams that were 8, all those teams, like 4 of those teams had won that day, and they shouldn't have won. It was something like, I think New England won because it should have been like, at that point should have been 7. And then who else did they beat? Denver won.
Mm-hmm.
So it should have been 6. Was it?
They beat. I can't even think right now.
Whatever it was, based off of the trajectory of the teams that they had beaten after the Philly game, everyone probably had picked the teams that Miami had beaten to be 4-32,
right?
Versus 8-28.
Yeah. So
4-29
and that's not to
versus
knock
8-25.
Miami. That's not to knock Miami. They did what they were supposed to do. It's not like they were out here struggling with these teams.
They struggle with New England. They struggle with
everybody struggles with New England.
They struggle with the Chargers. The Chargers.
Everybody struggles with the Chargers. Play more one-score games probably than anybody outside of Minnesota.
Now let's look. Like, if you can take a gander at your phone, how many times have the Chargers scored over 30 points this year?
Well, there was against Miami for sure. That might have been it, actually.
That might have been it. And they had to blitz excessively, which is a Brandon Staley problem. But they blitzed the hell out of Justin Herbert on that last drive when Miami finally took the lead.
So even though we're not making picks tonight, I just got to ask you this question. Are you done picking against Mike Tomlin or what?
Yo, dog, I'm telling you, when it happened, when it was happening, I literally looked at my phone because I went on Saturday night. I really, I made a lot of margaritas. I had a little Ninja blender or whatever. I made a lot of margaritas. So I was literally, a few sheets to the wind Sunday. And I was looking at my phone, and Mike always texts me because Mike's always up and eager and alert, just crazy, always on it all the time. And I was like, why did I pick against Tomlin again? Because what happens is 1 week I'll have a philosophy, whatever my philosophy is this week.
Yeah.
When I'm writing it down, I'm going to stop. I'm going to rip my paper up, and then I'm going to start over. Because I picked against Atlanta also. And I had a philosophy. Everything was locked in. I think I picked against Indy, and then
Indy lost.
But they were kind of aided with a couple of calls. I'm not gonna say bad calls. They were aided with calls that extended their opportunities. But my pops is a Colts fan, so I think if I stop and sit back, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna pick the Colts because my pops is a Colts fan. If I just go with that, sometimes I'm good to go. But when I get down to the weeds, I'm like,
that's what I told you. When we were just,
I don't want to not pick against Tomlin again because I can't be I can't not pick. But it's
but see, when we were fans,
and they're gonna win.
When we were just fans, you could do that. You could be like, hey, Tomlin off a bye. That's it. You could be like, yo, this is what Washington does.
Me and Tomlin in the same city. I'm picking him every week. I can't do it every time.
But now that we're doing
this, they win.
But now that we're doing this, I'm looking at numbers. I'm doing all these things, and I'm just like, you get into your own head, and because I told you, I was like, yo, I gotta pick the Giants, but I was like, but they're bad, But when I saw the Giants, when I saw the game on the schedule, where it was on the schedule, I was like, this is Chicago all over again. And watch, the Giants are gonna go out. I'm gonna say it right now. Giants gonna go out this weekend, and they're gonna lose to the Jets. Just to prove my point.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
That's the thing. The Jets.
Jets about to make the playoffs, man.
They just beat Philly. I think what the Jets do travels. I think Zach Wilson it's gonna be tough. Listen, I got Johnson & Johnson bedtime lotion for my daughter right here, baby powder. I got Johnson & Johnson baby powder for myself over here. So he's not hurting for money. I've been giving this man money my entire life. My son just wrapped his arm in Johnson & Johnson gauze and everything else. So they're getting money. They're going to have to give a chunk of that to Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Because Zach is going to go 18 for 24, 208 yards, no touchdowns, no fumbles, no picks. Get him in position for field goals. He's going to do that.
19-14.
And they're going to win 19-13. They're going to win 22-16. Some crazy
think about this, though. They beat Buffalo and Philly.
which that could be that realistically. There's a dude who lives probably 25 miles from me holding a MGM bet slip from Atlantic City that says Super Bowl odds, Buffalo, Philly. He put $150 on it or something, and the Jets beat both teams. He's looking at it like, this is not going to happen because of a couple of like bad games. But that's the beauty of the NFL.
That's the beauty of it. So speaking of beauty and the beauty of the NFL, so we probably got some coaches that
no, we got to first. First, listen, we got to talk about Kurt.
Okay,
we got to talk about Kurt with his shirt suit Cousins. This man had on a tan shirt, the brown tie, the brown tweed blazer with the elbow patches. Talking about, hey man, he said it in the documentary. His wife picks out his clothes, and they were like, "What do you think led to the victory?" This man pointed out Creed Higher, the song playing over the speaker in the locker room, and 8 players in the corner praying while Creed Can You Take Me Higher was playing. And it's just it's almost as beautiful as a goofy moment as when Ryan Fitzpatrick came out to the press conference with all of Deshaun Jackson's like stuff on, with the jewelry and the jacket. And Deshaun came out with no shirt on, like, yo, what are you doing? He's like, yeah, man, I had to put the stuff on. It's one of those things where I know people want to like knock, what's the boy name? Brock Purdy.
Well, that's what I was about to ask you. That's what I was about to ask you. Like so I don't want to get into Brock Purdy.
Okay.
But is this a thing? Is San Francisco? Is this a thing?
No. What this is something I noticed. I used to watch Undisputed when it was, Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless. I haven't watched it recently much. But something Shannon Sharp said was that he watches the games on mute.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah.
So I was watching a Netflix show, a couple of Netflix shows, British Bodies. That's a suggestion. Shout out to Netflix for the potential sponsorship because I'm shouting y'all out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Bodies, Netflix, for Seinfeld too.
Bodies and Top Boy. So I was watching Bodies.
Right.
It's limited series, 8 episodes. So Sunday, in between football, I was watching that on TV. I watched about 5 on Sunday, and then after work yesterday, football was over. Had some time, sat back here. I finished up the last 3 episodes. So I was watching the show, and then I had the game on mute. But when I was watching the game, what I saw was, I think Kevin O'Connell and Kirk Cousins, they just had something that was working. It was like a good boxer beating a great boxer with mixing up the jab to the body, jab to the head, hook to the body, hook to the head. Because it was a couple of plays where I forgot, it's Sunday Night Football. I think it's Chris Collinsworth, correct? No. I was Monday Night Football. So it was Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, and Eli. I like the Manning cast because I like the way the quarterbacks talk about the game. So what Peyton said was, hey, San Francisco, I would get out of cover 2. So in my mind, I'm okay. I don't know defense like when I look at it and see it, but when he says it, I know what he's talking about. So what was happening is that Minnesota was recognizing that San Francisco just was in cover 2 a lot, I guess. So what they were doing was running one guy from the left side of the formation on top of the linebackers, underneath the safeties, and then we're running another guy underneath of the linebackers. So now the linebacker has to decide
which way you're gonna go.
Do I take this guy here and help the safeties, or do I take this guy underneath? But the guy underneath, it was like Addison. Who's number 4? I forgot his name.
Not Osborne, is it?
Now Osborne's 17. Osborne's like they're outside the numbers guy since Jefferson's not there. So they run.
Powell?
So they're Powell. So
Mhm.
they were running him underneath of the linebacker. They were running another guy on top of like Fred Warner and Greenlaw, and then they were running like Hawkinson like in that little void. So they were like just basically putting a player. They were putting a player here, here, and then like a guy coming across. And Kurt was like making the right read, and I just felt like they got in the flow. Because there's a couple of drives, even they didn't get a lot of points, but what it did was 3rd and 8, you run that drag that you ran on first down. Fred Warner jumps it,
Now this man
and
out
now
here
you
breaking
have,
bats.
and then you had Addison coming in over top because it was one play where I think San Francisco knew it was coming. Kirk Cousins threw a perfect pass over Greenlaw's fingers right in front of Warner.
Yo, Baum
Whereas
is going nuts right now. He just broke his bat on the walk to the dugout. Then he got to the dugout and broke the rest of the bat.
dudes, while I'm at
we're in the bottom of the 8th, 1 out, 4-2 Arizona. We are 35-35. Durant going to the hole, got fouled, 35-35 in San Francisco. I was about to say Oakland. But
look at that. I think we're lined up now. This is the first time ever we've been lined up in all
I'm
of
at
our
6 minutes and
conversations.
32 seconds. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, high five.
There you go. Bam. But yeah, so Kirk was making the right reads.
He was making the right reads. And not only was he making the right reads, the offensive play caller was making the right calls. And then I think that was like, it was because they only got 22 points. It wasn't like they were just moving the ball up and down the field. But what was happening is that I think the expectation will go back to some of these top defenses that we've seen, like the old school Baltimore's defense, the Chicago Bears defense with Devin Hester, or even like the top flight offenses. You just kind of like they come onto the field and they expect you to not be where, like to be in the wrong spot so they can get their playoff. And I think San Francisco sometimes feels like, oh, you left Bosa unblocked with no help.
Ginkgo we're gonna get back strikeouts. Yeah,
we're gonna get to you. And Kurt was like, I'm gonna drop back because I know if this right tackle can hold for 3.15 seconds, by 3.2, I'm gonna let this ball go. And I think that's what it was. So even the field goal, I don't know about the field goal at the end. I think at 4th and like less than 4, I'd go for it.
Yeah, I would go for it
because you're simply because you're in a position where the expectation for you to win. I know I'm not sure how much that factors into what coaches think. Like, oh, they don't expect us to win, so I'm gonna do this. But it's like, even then, you're putting yourself up 8. But if I can go and take the game, like in the game, but this 4th and 3, you're still in a better position because a missed field goal gives the other team the ball 7 yards ahead of where they would have gotten it anyway.
You know who San Francisco got this week? They got the Bengals coming off the bye. So, so we'll see how that goes.
Bengals off the bye.
Mm-hmm.
Do they take the check down though? Like that's the thing. Like, do they take the check down?
All right, we'll see. But let's get to this hot seat, so we can get moving.
Hot seat again. So we clock is ticking. Hot seat. I got Ron Rivera.
Easily.
I got Brandon Staley.
Easily.
I got Sean McDermott.
I can see it, but I'll say no right now. But I can see it.
Why would you pause?
Because I think that, and I'm guilty. And I'm guilty of this myself. I'm guilty. I'm guilty of this myself. Like we do that thing.
What do you think gets coaches fired? What thing? Like real quick, what thing you? If
not
a
meeting
team
expectations,
doesn't have talent,
not meeting expectations.
Washington doesn't have the talent that you would think generally can compete at a high level in NFC, correct?
Correct.
So that buys Ron Rivera a couple of years.
Right.
Robert Saleh has Aaron Rodgers come and get injured first game. Doesn't have the quarterback that they thought was going to gets you a pass.
Right.
Bill Belichick has 6 Super Bowls, 14 AFC Championship games.
Can't fire him.
Ron Rivera has. Sean McDermott has talent, but can't seem to get over the hump. But if you look at Miami's talent, that's comparable with Buffalo. If you look at Miami's talent and you're the Chargers, that's comparable. So it's like, why is it that Buffalo, Miami, Kansas City with big wide receivers, big targets, big strong arm quarterback, why are they always 5-2, 6-2 after 8 games, and we are barely 4-3, 4-4,
because you lost Tre'Davious White for the year and probably lost Matt Milano too.
Okay, did you lose the back end of your defense?
Well, yeah, Tre'Davious White is your best corner.
That's at the back end. The safety help. So you lost corner, linebacker. How's your defensive front? Your front solid. How's your wide receiver core?
They're okay. They okay.
How's your quarterback?
They're okay. They got one great route running receiver, and they got a dude that we think is good, but he's probably
a lot of touchdowns against Kansas City because of
the other dude.
The other dude's still there.
That's what I'm saying. But
the other dude's still there. So it's like the other dude's still there. You should be doing the same thing you was doing.
Look at T. Higgins, right? So you got Jamar Chase, right?
Correct.
I think T. Higgins is a good receiver, independent of Jamar Chase. Obviously, Jamar Chase.
Reggie Wayne's a good receiver, independent of Marvin Harrison.
Yes.
Do you think Marvin Harrison helped him get open?
Yes.
Do you think Isaac Bruce is independently better than Torrey Holt? But you think Isaac Bruce's presence allowed Torrey Holt to get open and then Torrey Holt to take advantage of it? Correct.
In the beginning, yes.
Yeah. So if you're,
I don't think that Gabe Davis is what those other guys are.
Yeah, but if you think about like what you have in Gabe Davis, it's the same. We'll go with McLaurin and Dotson. McLaurin's going to get or Samuel and Dotson. So like what you have is you can't cover everybody.
Right.
But I got all these players. I still should be getting something out of these guys. If you look at let's talk about the Rams for the last few years. They've always seemed to be able to have a number 1 guy and a number 2 or 3 guy that you have to game plan for. Buffalo doesn't put their team in position the way you have to game plan. Mm-hmm. They got 2 tight ends. They got Kincaid and Dawson Knox.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're basically the same guy. They're basically up and coming versions of Travis Kelce with that 6'4", 6'5" frame, 255, 260. If I got two of those guys, I can't get any of these guys open. It has to be a coaching thing.
Let's back up. Are we by saying that Sean McDermott's on the hot seat? Are you saying that if they don't make the AFC Championship game this year, he's fired?
I'm gonna say even if they do make it, which I don't think they will, I think this is his last year because you'll look at, right now, you got 7 teams make the playoffs from the AFC. You got Kansas City is going to win AFC West. Who's winning the East? Miami?
We'll go with that for now.
We'll go
I think Buffalo still could, but we'll go with Miami.
We'll go Jacksonville winning the South.
And then Baltimore.
Somebody winning the North. I have no idea. I picked
Baltimore before the season, and I'm sticking with them.
I wouldn't put $1 on any bet that I came in my head over the next 2 or 3 minutes, even if you try to convince me otherwise. But one of those teams wanted it. So you figure you're going to get, that's 4. You'll get at least an extra one from the North.
Another from the North. Nobody else from the South, probably. Nobody else from the West. So Buffalo still gets in.
I mean, you might be able to get Indy out of the South.
I doubt it.
Gardner Minshew has a way of doing.
He's a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He's a winner. But I just think that.
So you got Buffalo as a 6 seed, and then you sneak in
the Jets.
The Jets as a
or maybe
7
the Steelers,
seed.
The Steelers or the
The
Browns.
Steelers at a 7. One of those other teams.
Yeah.
So you figure you get 2. So that's gonna put Buffalo in a situation.
Well, we had this conversation. Well, we had this conversation during
and if they're in that position, that means they didn't perform to the talent level that they have.
So there's a couple of things at play here. We had this conversation. So we had a similar conversation before the season started, right? Buffalo. If I'm Buffalo, the only team that I walk on the field and feel a complex about is Kansas City. We already saw what Buffalo did to Miami. Buffalo already shut down Miami.
Well, we're kind of feeling like Miami and Detroit are kind of one of the same.
I think Ken Dorsey is the problem.
Front rusher.
I think Ken Dorsey is the problem and not Sean McDermott. I think it's
Ken Dorsey. I have a problem solely blaming play callers when you have, granted, I watch a lot of Atlanta, but I see the formations. I see the lack of diversity in the play calling. Mm-hmm. But if I have the horses, and if I have a bunch of different horses that can run a bunch of different races, and I put all those horses in the races and they don't win, it's not me as a bad identifier of talent. It's a matter of okay, did you execute? And we've seen Josh Allen not execute. We've seen the fallout of Stephon Diggs kind of being upset. I know it was the playoff game and the last image, everyone's yelling.
I mean, he's basically Brett Favre. For all the shit about Brett Favre, he only got 1 Super Bowl. This happens. And because he did his best season was when Daboll was there.
I know
you don't like to, but the facts are the facts.
Yeah, I like. But if you look at Daboll right now, they gave Daniel Jones $40 million, and last season you didn't think he was top 10. So,
but you did.
I thought he was top 10 based off of last year's performance, not historically in this time window. I didn't think for instance, I think Tua's having a top 10 performance this year, but I would never have thought that in his previous few years. I think Justin Herbert is a middle of the pack quarterback the same way I think Dak is. But for a couple of years, I thought Dak was more in that top 8 based off of that performance. It's just that Buffalo has the marketable talent to be better, and they are underperforming. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing that puts McDermott on the hot seat.
Okay,
is because it's the Singletary Harbaugh effect. Mike Singletary never got another interview in the league because Harbaugh took his team and immediately made an impact by saying, "Oh, I got these extra tight ends. Oh, can't play with them, can't win with them." And he put Vernon Davis in the game with a couple more tight ends with Alex Smith and Kaepernick.
And he went to the Super Bowl.
And went to the fucking Super Bowl. Mike Singletary's name hasn't been brought up since that press conference.
Right.
So that's what I mean. So I think that, do we have this deja vu? I think we had this conversation before.
That's what I told you. Yeah, we've had this conversation
about McDermott, and I think that's what I think it's a matter of.
And So
I think it might just. I think that's the piece where that's why he's on the hot seat. Staley's on the hot seat because he has a talented team in his division. The Chiefs are beatable by.
They are talented enough. They are talented enough to beat the Chiefs
to the point where when you go into the game and it's Chiefs Chargers, it should feel a lot like Bengals Ravens, Browns
Philly, Dallas.
Bengals. Yeah. Philly, Dallas. It shouldn't feel like New
Chiefs,
Orleans,
Raiders.
Carolina. It shouldn't feel like Chiefs, Raiders, right? That's perfect. That's probably perfect. Yeah. It shouldn't feel like Chiefs, Raiders. It shouldn't feel like Seattle, Arizona this year.
Right.
But it seems like every single year it feels as if
and then they only put up 17 points at that. But But yeah, so then of course we were talking about, we didn't debate about it. I think we just didn't think about it. But like we talked about Vrabel. Is Vrabel on the hot seat now?
I would say no, because
it's tough
Tannehill is
because
such an underperformer
yeah, that's what I'm
that the
saying. Like,
idea that I got two more quarterbacks on staff because you got to get another quarterback and coach.
But I also think that you hit that window of where I can buy your take on McDermott is we need a new voice. Like this same voice has been here, and now it's just time to reboot. So I can see Vrabel being on the hot seat more so for the let's get somebody new in here versus I don't think this guy can do the job.
For McDermott kind of works because the new voice is coming to talk to town.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's why I see your point about McDermott.
New voice with
I'm saying about Vrabel
isn't coming to talk to talent.
Maybe though, because if you could get one of those,
quarterback whisperers, but they're not proven.
Right. Well, it depends on who you get. Like, yeah, if you bring Brandon Staley in there, then yeah. But no, it just depends on who you bring in, though. Like, I think it just depends. Like, I mean, I ain't saying you bring in somebody like Nagy or somebody like that, but like you talked about Sam Howell, trying to get Bieniemy fired. Bring in Bieniemy. Bring in Bieniemy and let him use some tutelage on Malik Willis. But then you just drafted Levis. So, I don't know what you do there.
So that's why I think Vrabel is safe, is because Vrabel can walk into the office and not, like I said, I understand this is like, it might come off as toxic masculinity, but like, I'm a man, I came here to do a job, yada, yada, yada. And you can come in there and say, hey, I can't do anything with this guy. It's not an indictment on Tannehill, but at a certain point, there is probably enough of a resume that the ownership and the decision makers can say Tannehill might not be our guy.
When they played
drafted two guys in the last 2 years, so I think that gives Vrabel a bit of an opportunity, because if you think about if you're a coach, you're a high candidate. Let's say let's just give the top 4 teams: Miami, Philly, Kansas City, San Francisco. We'll throw in another. Who's a surprise team that's doing very well?
Detroit or Seattle, Baltimore.
Detroit. Okay. Baltimore. One of those 5 offensive or defensive coordinators, because those are pretty good on both sides of the ball. If they want to go to Tennessee, there's no evidence to support that Malik Willis is a good NFL quarterback. And based off the college information you have for Will Levis, he's a good quarterback.
Right.
So it might be a situation of where the Raiders job could come open. You got Devontae Adams, Max Crosby. What's the boy that threw the ball backwards but now he plays for the Raiders? Jacoby
Myers.
You
got Josh Jacobs.
You have the new $1.5 billion stadium in Las Vegas. You have the fans. You have the whole ambiance. So if you're a defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator for Baltimore, and McDaniels happens to get fired, like, where do you want to coach? You want to coach Malik Willis or Will Levis in Tennessee, and maybe they don't get rid of Tannehill? Or do you want to go to Los Angeles with Devontae Adams and whatever the case may be?
Right.
So I think Vrabel is good.
His ass ain't going to be there.
Because no, I think
he already asking out now.
Yeah, but that depends on who they bring in. I think Vrabel is good because I'm not sure how many people want to come to Tennessee and fill his shoes. But if I'm an offensive coordinator and I can get Buffalo after McDermott is fired, and I can keep Gabe Davis, I can keep Kincaid, I can keep Dawson Knox, I can keep James Cook and Stephon Diggs. Oh yeah, sign me up. I'm on the Great Lakes on the other side of Ohio and upstate New York, getting it in like I'm O.J. Simpson. That's the difference. That's why I think McDermott sees hotter, because I think it's
so
whoever replaces him is a hot. They're in a better position.
Let's go somewhere obvious. Is Eberflus making a case to get off the hot seat?
Yes. Okay. I think he is. because
don't let Staley lose to them this week.
I don't know who gets fired in the middle of the season. I know there's a lot of odds. Someone's posted in the group like Eberflus like 2-1, Staley's like 4-1, something crazy.
Well, I just don't know if Eberflus has, because some of that was Justin Fields. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't all coaching. Like some of that was Justin Fields as well. You know,
but they just
didn't have talent.
After the coach got called out 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
it seems as if the play calling was different. Not even
they also don't have talent though. Like they don't have defensive talent, you know, besides Jalen Johnson and I can't think of his name right now. The other
defensively, a lot of times you just need scheme. I just need to like you can have Central has defensive talent and a great scheme. And you can beat it with Kirk Cousins going 35 for 45. Like it takes that kind of game.
Washington has the front line, but not the scheme.
Not the scheme.
Because there's ways to make those corners look better.
It's ways to make the corners look better, and it might involve adopting a different philosophy of like, you know what? Let me blitz.
Go watch the Giants with Osi Minor. Damn it, you know.
Yeah.
Justin Tuck and Michael Strahan, OC Umenora. There you go.
Yeah.
Umenora.
So that's like but you have to be willing to adopt that philosophy. If you're locked in, like if you're like married to the head coach,
we are one more out away from the Diamondbacks going to the World Series. My surprise team in MLB this year. But anyway,
Philly's going to set the city on fire. Hopefully they don't. Hopefully they grease all the poles already. The police grease the poles in Philly.
Yeah, I remember.
It's a big playoff game.
Yeah.
Oh, the Super Bowl, whatever the national championship game with Villanova was going.
Yeah,
the poles were greased. People still climbed them. But it was like 1 out of 10 people said, I'm going to keep going. The other 9, I'm not doing this.
I got one for you. Before the season started, we were team Todd Bowles is out of here.
Oh, I think he's still out.
He's still out?
He's still out because it's the player. You're not going to go into 2024 with Baker Mayfield as your starter,
right?
Based on what he does this year, because by his own level of success or non-success, he is not going to get you. Baker Mayfield is not going to get you 11-6 season,
right?
Just on his own. Mike Evans didn't get paid, so Baker Mayfield is not going to give you a Mike Evans season that says pay him. So you're going to end up at the end of this year losing, and they don't run the ball at all. So they have no formidable running back, no running game. Mike Evans, your best wide receiver threat, will not be there because your quarterback doesn't get him the ball to the point where he can even argue that he has leverage to get paid, that he needs to get paid. So it's just one of those things where everyone's playing to audition for their next part of their football life.
Dennis Allen,
he might be good because I think Derek Carr can still use some wins, and I think Atlanta is going to give away some wins, and New Orleans could still win NFC South and get a home playoff game. Because I think Atlanta has a game against Minnesota in a couple of weeks. Kirk Cousins, I like him. I'm wearing his shirt, like I'm shouting it out. But Atlanta can be in a position where they lose 20-17 to Minnesota because when they should have gone for it on 4th and 2, they're going to punt it, or they're going to kick a long field goal, and then the defense have to go back out in the field. And it's just one of those things where I don't think the personnel matches the expectation of success.
And there you have it, folks. The Arizona Diamondbacks are going to go meet the Texas Rangers. We got the Suns up at halftime by 15 on the Warriors. Devin Booker with 21 in the first half. 8 for 10 from the field. But yeah. So anybody else?
I still got them 37 and 45. Hot seat. If we go west, I think Pete Carroll's good.
I think everybody in that division.
Everybody's good. I want Arthur Smith to be on the hot seat. I want Arthur Smith to be on the hot seat, but he is a byproduct of what I was talking about as far as like personnel.
Mm-hmm.
I think the owner of the Falcons will look at what Arthur Smith is doing and be like, you know what? I like our direction. And that'll be enough. Versus the Buffalo Bills owners or GM saying, like, I think our direction should have been more in line with what the Chiefs are doing, and it's not that. So the talent level can be whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago can go 5-12, 6-11, but if Justin Fields ends the season with 29, 30 touchdowns and 12 or 13 picks.
Well, we got to figure out when he's coming back.
Oh, whenever he gets back,
right.
If he can, in the season with an optimistic ratio, I think same thing in Arizona, where it's like if Kyler Murray can just stay healthy, keep working, it might be interesting at the draft is like who wants to move to the top.
Yeah, but I think that's pretty much it, though. I think everybody else is either safe in their first year or, like they have circumstances.
Most guys are safe. Like if we go east or west, there's only a few guys that are, on the hot seat.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see though. The hot seat is always an interesting time, and next week is going to be interesting because we got the first college football rankings coming out.
And we're going to get ahead of it, but it's going to be pretty chalk.
Not for me.
You going, like, if we go, what we going? Let's go 1 through 12.
Well, I did my own. I didn't go off of the AP. I did what I think.
You're thinking like if it was a 12-team playoff or if it was a 14.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me get this off real quick. You know what I'm saying? So all you folks out there that keep telling me, and I keep hearing on all these other podcasts, that we're going to deem the regular season to be meaningless and these games aren't going to matter, XYZ, blah, 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 right? How about this? Let's take a walk real quick because all I keep hearing is we're going to get Texas and Oklahoma rematch in the Big 12 championship game. Oh, we might see a rematch of Washington and Oregon in the pack. I guess those games didn't matter then, right? So if Texas wins out and Oklahoma wins out, and Texas is going to get in the playoff because they won the Big 12 championship game. But if I'm Oklahoma, I'm like, I beat them. Like that game didn't matter. Like
beat them twice.
They get a rematch. Like you
gotta beat them twice. You gotta beat them twice.
So my point is that in these circumstances, the games already don't matter. So what happens if Ohio State? So Ohio State already beat Penn State.
Correct.
What happens if Penn State beats Michigan and then Michigan beats Penn State? You got to get into these funky tiebreakers about, who's going to go to the Big Ten title game because they go divisionless next year. You got the ACC. Florida State beat Duke the other day. Duke's first ACC loss. Louisville got an ACC loss. They play this weekend against each other. You got North Carolina, who somehow lost to the Wahoos. You got Miami with one conference loss. So what if Miami beats Florida State?
Mm-hmm.
Knocking on all that wood, pause. You know what I'm saying? But you got 11-1 Miami, 11-1 Florida State. And then you got 11-1 North Carolina. And, I don't know. Like, what do you do then?
You just have you have to have some. There has to be some predefined tiebreakers, i.e., points scored, points against common opponent, conference record.
What the ACC?
You're ranking at the time of the matchup. Something they have to break it all the way down to where
normally back in the day. So back in the day, you probably remember this. We had a season where Texas Tech, and Oklahoma all beat each other. That was the Crabtree catch year against Texas. You know, they all beat each other. And Oklahoma got the nod because of the BCS ranking. You know, so but there's no BCS now. So
you got to use something. And so
right. So
maybe
the
it's
ACC,
total points scored.
So the ACC is going with the ACC. It's different because there's a possibility that if Louisville and North Carolina both went out, they don't play each other. You know, so there's an independent firm that does analytics that's going to come up with some kind of formula or strategy that's going to put somebody in the conference championship game. You know, other times you use division record. You know, if you can't use that, record against the other division.
You got record against common opponents.
Record against top 25. Sorry, Michigan.
Records against top 25, points scored. There's a myriad of aspects you can use. The issue is this. There is a clear agenda, and it has been for multiple years for the NCAA football committee, BCS, the nonprofit organization that
all of the above,
bringing a lot of money, all of that. It's because the bowl games are at neutral sites, normally NFL stadiums, with minimum 70,000 seats. So you have the Caesars Palace, which used to be the Mercedes Superdome, and that's Caesars Palace. Atlanta, their Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Dallas, they tend to host the games. State Farm, is it still State Farm in Arizona, or did they change that yet?
I'm not sure. There's Hard Rock down in Miami.
The Arizona Connor Stadium, the Hard Rock down in Miami, only 60,000 seats, but you got to get them all the way down to literally south part of Florida. Not many stadiums up north as far as this game, and they do a Rose Bowl in Pasadena, which is outside of LA.
I know they do a bowl game in Yankee Stadium, and
but that's normally like a West Virginia versus whomever.
Hey, maybe Rutgers will get in there this year. You know,
the tickets for like $52.
They got the See, I was about to say the Pontiac Superdome, Ford Field. You know, I'm old. I was about to say the Pontiac Silverdome.
But they're probably like the Ford Field game isn't expected.
It's a MAC team, and
don't need they're not trying to sell 70,000 tickets. Like if I get Texas versus Ohio State in Arizona, I need 35,000 fans in Texas apparel, and then 35,000 in Ohio State apparel, which is easy. But if I get Texas versus Cincinnati in Arizona, I'm not sure if I can get 35,000 Cincinnati Bearcat fans to definitively to fill that stadium. And that always was a major piece. This year, like, because you're going to do if it was 12, I'm going to look at the 4, and I'm going to go with my.
Obviously, I got a top 4, but
you got your 4. But I'm talking about because I'm going up to 13 with this current standing. Not with the new system, with this current system. Right. You can use your in-depth knowledge of like how this year will look one way, but next year look a different way at this same point. Because because we're not locked in. We're trying to do it a week ahead of time to see what we match up with. Because we had this conversation a year ago about what it will look like in 2 years with 12 teams, and I think that conversation we had like 3 SEC teams in that 12 up to 4. This is before the format came out. So if we look at it right now, I'm gonna go chalk 1, 2, 3, 4, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, FSU. Not because of talent, it's because the Georgia versus Florida State game, I can put on anywhere south of Tennessee, and I'm gonna sell that stadium out. And neither team has shown you a reason why they shouldn't be 1 or 4. Ohio State, Michigan. I mean, like, do I need to say any more than that? We could play that game in Frankfurt, and it could probably sell out. Frankfurt, not Frankfurt, Kentucky, Frankfurt, Germany. So I think that piece, is always like
that's what I'm saying, because I think predicting what the committee will do
The committee's got to go 1, 2, 3, 4. They can't go 1, 3, 2, 4.
Well, I think the committee might go. I think they go Georgia, Michigan, but I think they go Florida State, Oklahoma.
Nah,
is what I think the committee would do.
Nah, I think they go 2, 3. Oh, Michigan, Ohio State, just so people are excited. So people can
talk about it.
And when the Michigan Ohio State game occurs, they'll let it fan out. But I think Oklahoma. I like Oklahoma. I think they travel well. I don't know if they skip over Washington, but if we go, so Washington is 5.
So what's your top 4? If it's up to Mr. Logical, what's your top 4?
If it's up to me, I would go Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Washington. I put Ohio State 5, OU 6.
See, here you go, leaving me to be 2-5.
So the reason I would put Washington 4 is because I like the marketability of it. I like the promotion of it. I like the fact that Penix, granted, Washington have a great game last week. I like that he's a Heisman finalist. I like my Heisman finalists to also be in the running for my college football playoff when the first rankings come out, because you're competing with week 7 of the NFL, week 2 or 3 of the NBA, and you only have about, because you got that gap, that post Thanksgiving to bowl game gap. I need people to just be buzzed about these teams that are potentially in the college football playoff, because the Deion playing at 10 o'clock at night on the Fridays and Saturday nights, that's not by accident. That's designed so that we as fans are watching college football at 10 o'clock.
And I'm excited. I'm excited because, side note, Colorado, UCLA this week. But anyway, but you leaving me to be 2-5, as only 2-5 can be.
Well, this is why I gave you that name. This is why you have that moniker. We've been agreeing way too much in the last couple of months. It was important. Like, I was describing to someone the other day at work, like, why I called you 2-5. Yeah. And I remember that. I think the conversation was, your argument was that Kareem had the best argument for greatest player of all time because his entire basketball career. And I had never heard that, even from my pops. My pops had Magic. And I was like, I had never heard a person say, yo, my goat's Kareem. I was like, what?
Yeah, Lou Alcindor. They were changing rules because of him, and all that stuff.
And then they brought over the beer and the shrimp.
Just like remember last week,
I was like, this dude's on to something. We was killing Hooters. Shout out to last week, Colorado Springs. We were killing.
Just like last week, I told you Deion wasn't my GOAT DB. You know what I'm saying? That's just how I roll. Like, I ain't gotta be like everybody else. I can roll with Charles Woodson if I want to. But anyway,
So you're gonna be your 2-5 moment. What's your 2-5 moment?
So my top 4.
Top 4.
It's my top 4. So my top
right
4,
now,
as of right now, is I'm gonna start at number 4. Georgia. Number 3, Michigan. Number 2, Florida State. Number 1, Oklahoma. That's my top 4 right there. You know what I'm saying? Jeez. And I wanted to put Florida State number 1, but I didn't want to be Homer. I didn't want to be the Homer. But when I look at it, because I'm big about
gotta check the schedule.
So when I look at Michigan, the only reason I don't have them number 1, because Michigan theoretically should be number 1, because they're blowing out everybody. Like they beat Michigan
Their
State
whole staff is going to jail, but yeah, they're blowing everybody
up. That too. Yeah.
People get locked up.
They beat Michigan State 49-0 in East Lansing. Last week, Indiana got a touchdown, and then Michigan outscored the next 52 points of the game. You know what I mean? Like, so Michigan's just been putting it on people. You know what I mean? So if you're just looking at dominance and all that stuff, then Michigan could be your number one. If you're going off of like, yo, this team I know is going to be here. They've won the last 2 national championships. They're the champion until somebody dethrones them. Then Georgia's your number one.
But wouldn't that be encapsulated with their ranking throughout the season? It's not like.
But the playoff committee shouldn't mirror the AP though. Like they're an independent body that is supposed to have their own reasoning.
But if that independent body can still have the same like.
Yeah, they could. Like, they could.
We haven't seen anybody beat them in a couple of years. Ohio State was the closest, and I think they had a couple of close games.
That would matter to me if they had Stetson Bennett. If they had Jalen Carter, if they had Jordan Davis, if they had Ringo, all that would matter to me. But this is a whole new team.
Guys are still undefeated.
Yes, but at the same time, and this is where you get dangerous, right? Like I heard somebody say this the other day, and it made complete sense, and I had never thought about it before, even though it's simple. They said that we're judging Alabama against Alabama. And that's what, to some degree, I'm doing to Georgia, is I'm judging Georgia against who they were.
Correct.
But they're not that right now. Like looking at their games this year, the same Auburn team that LSU beat by damn near 40.
Correct.
Georgia was in a game. Auburn had a chance to put the game in overtime. They were giving up points to UAB. They look good against Kentucky. That's about the only game that they've actually looked like. They were down 14-3 at halftime to South Carolina.
I mean, God, I hate when you like sway me to your side with this.
Well, no, I'm not. But the point that I'm making,
I feel you because I do feel that we talk about it. We talked about it with the back in the day when Kenyon Martin got hurt for the Cincinnati Bearcats. He got hurt in like the tournament game, and then the rankings came out, and Cincinnati was going to be a number 1 seed.
Yeah,
he got hurt, and they got dropped to number 2, which essentially had him somewhere around like 8. And it was like, well, you lost your top player.
Right.
So for Georgia not to have a dynamic player or a player personnel group the way they had with Jordan Davis a couple of years ago, Jalen Carter last year, Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, those other guys, and then Stetson Bennett. I understand but with that being said, they haven't lost, and if they do lose, they will drop far because I think they're teetering on you're 1, but if you get out of line, you'll be 8, and we won't mind because we have to keep you at 1 because you haven't done anything.
Will the committee
to not be 1?
Will the committee use the Brock Bauer injury to drop Georgia?
No, they're gonna wait on a loss because in football, having your dynamic offensive player not there normally translates to a loss. You lose a couple of tackles.
Well, they got the cocktail party this weekend, so we'll see. Florida, so we'll see. But
I think that's what it is, because we talked about it before with the whole when it was back before the Big 12 had. We talked about this on the pod before when the Big 12 didn't have a championship game, and Alabama was 11-1, but didn't play in their championship game, and then they so like they put these teams in positions to where we know Ohio State's going to go from 6-4, but we'll put TCU and Baylor at 4 and 5.
I think
so you put Georgia at 1 because they didn't lose 1, but as soon as they lose. If they get the 5, they'll never get back. And I don't think they'll ever get back in.
And that's where I think I'm different, because I think a lot of people, when they rank, they also use it as like a projection. Like, this is what I think is going to happen. This is who I think the best team is, or this is who I think the best team will be. So until Georgia loses, they're just number 1. I look at it as this is going to work itself out. So correct. I can rank how I want, and then
so I think we're on the same. I think we're on the same page there. I just think that as far as like if I'm the committee, Georgia hasn't
Hold on. Let me. So check it out. So check it out. If I don't know nothing about college football, right? I'm just somebody sat down and said, watch this with me. I'm going to explain it all to you. These are the good teams, whatever, right?
Okay.
So when I'm sitting there and somebody says to me, Florida State has beat LSU, who may have the Heisman Trophy winner as well. They've beaten Duke, and so when I look at that, I'm like, oh, those are two pretty good wins. Those are two damn good wins. Now everybody's holding the Boston College game against Florida State, because they had a close game against a bad team. But it happens. Look at Oklahoma the other day. Yeah. So now when I look at Oklahoma, I'm like, don't tell me how good and talented Texas is if I can't give Oklahoma a bump for beating Texas. Right? Now, when I look at Michigan, what's Michigan's best win? Is it Rutgers? Is it UNLV?
The rivalry game with Michigan State?
No, because they just fired their coach and they haven't beat up Power 5 team yet this year.
But maybe like you can't fault Michigan for being so much better than their competition. If you think about it.
No. But I can fault them.
By that same logic, Florida State essentially, for lack of a better phrase, played down the Boston College. LSU, that lost to Florida State, also lost and they lost to Ole Miss, and then they were within a couple of miraculous defensive possessions
of losing
against Missouri.
But Missouri's good.
Missouri, yeah, they're good. So it's like you can't just take. That's why it's hard to use this team played this team tough, this team played this team tough thing, because then I can go into the team that you selected, i.e. LSU, or even you're saying, LSU Florida State had the close call against Boston College, but then someone can look at Boston College lost to, I'm not even sure what Boston College win-loss record is.
They're 4-3.
So they've lost 3 games, and they were within an earshot of beating Florida State. So I think it's kind of hard to use that. Oh, they almost played this team.
No, but I can't.
Only
but
thing
I
you can really use is how are you playing consistently week to week? If every single the Minnesota Vikings last year, shout out to Kirk Cousins, they were 7-1 in one-score games. You shouldn't be 7-1 and one-score games when you win 13 games. You could be 3-1. You shouldn't be having to come from behind and be scrambling and be the comeback kids and stuff like that. That will give me an indictment on your team. But if you are a good team and you're just beating the hell out of the teams you play, then you beat the hell out of the teams you play.
No, I get that. But at the same time, I can't reward you when your out of conference schedule is UNLV, Bowling Green, and East Carolina.
But is that on par with the other teams?
It is not. It is not. But also, hold on.
But it's Alabama's off.
Hold on. But also, even when you look at their Big Ten games, Indiana, Michigan State. It's not. And they have a chance on November 11th to beat Penn State. And they have a chance the last game of the season to beat Ohio State. And I got them in my top 4. It ain't like I put them at number 7 or something like that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But I get what you're saying.
But yes, Alabama played Texas out of conference.
Yes. But they do that one game every year. But they also play 4 very cupcake games. They play 3 early.
But look.
This is what Alabama does every year.
If Alabama played one of those teams,
Alabama will play Mercer.
Yes,
Georgia State.
That's what I was about to say.
And Tennessee State.
You know what? If
but
Alabama
they'll also play Texas and/or Oregon.
No,
right?
See, this is why it's bullshit.
But then they'll play a cupcake game before they play Auburn every year. So they play at least 4. They just spread them out.
This is why it's bullshit. Because if Alabama had played Bowling Green instead of Texas, they be undefeated in Georgia and Alabama would be 1-2 in the polls right now.
Absolutely, but
that's my point. So you gotta have something you gotta have a line of delineation. But you have to.
But when it comes to that line, it's a matter of there's no set demand on the schedule. So when we get into the weeds, when we present questions like, well, this team played them tough, or this team only beat this team, it's always going to be, well, LSU lost to this guy, Missouri beat Kansas State beat Kansas.
Well, that's why it always
Kansas beat
because it's all subjective.
Oregon beat Cal. Like it's always going to be
this
crazy Venn diagram.
This is the problem in the NFL. In the NFL, the talent is, for the most part, equally.
Oh, it's very even. You have a dynamic player somewhere on your team.
In college,
hopefully if you have 4.
In college, the only objective fact that you have is the win-loss record. But the schedules aren't created equal. So that's where this comes in.
And I get that, but you're looking at it as this expectation that these schedules have to be created equal.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm just saying don't play Bowling Green, East Carolina.
But everybody does. Everybody plays that schedule. Everybody plays that.
You're right. But what I'm saying is, this is not projected. This is not the final ranking. This is not my final ranking. This is ranking to this point. I can only judge you off of who you played to this point. So as Penn State enters the schedule, as Maryland enters the schedule,
has any team realistically, without doing like a deep dive, of the top 8 teams, who's played a 2 or 3 top 12 teams and won all those games? Like if you look at Georgia, they haven't. Michigan hasn't. Ohio State hasn't.
Well, Georgia hasn't played a top 20 team.
Well, but that's the thing. They started out as number one. And if they don't, they're not going to get all the way to the end as number one and win it all. Because at some point, you have to play one of these top teams, either your championship game, either your rivalry game.
Right. And I can let you
so you can be 9-0 and 10-0, but you can't take it away because there's no evidence to support that to take it away simply because
yes, I can.
These other teams aren't good because Indiana's not good. Ohio State doesn't deserve their rankings.
Because you don't look good. I can't.
Okay, I give you that. I'll give you that.
I can't reward you because of what you did last year, but in front of my eyes right now, you're struggling.
They beat the brakes off of somebody.
That was Kentucky.
Well, I mean, like, what else do you want them to do? They can't
get
hold up, but look, on their schedule.
Okay,
they can't replace teams on their schedule that aren't as good as if you play your conference is your conference. So your out of conference games are on par with everybody else's. Everybody else is spending,
and that's why
minimum.
That's why it all works out.
Opponent.
If Oklahoma didn't play Texas until 3 weeks from now,
the problem
then I wouldn't have them as high right now.
If you put teams that are already in the AP poll 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you put them in the college football playoffs as 4, 3, 2, 1 because of this, then I think you open up this portal of
but that's the point of
LSU played this way. But I don't think that's the point of the committee.
That's the whole point, is to not be the AP.
Because
if that was the case, you would just use the AP rankings.
They get the best 4 teams. And
how do they do that? They do it subjectively as well.
Once again, I don't think they have a subjective ideology in selecting their best teams. I think the best teams are the best teams that can fill the stadium. I'm gonna go back to this. I'm a follow the money kind of guy.
But that's what
I'm saying. When Neo in the Matrix and he got the message that said follow the white rabbit, and the girl came to the door. That's me sending the message. Follow the money. Because what happens is if you I don't want to tell Georgia, I don't think you're number one because you didn't blow these other teams out. Because if you get a team that blows a team out and then they lose the following week, you can't be like, oh, well, they blew out Kentucky. So you have to just be like, you know what? You won. You didn't lose. This is a spot you were in. will leave you there.
Do you think
If
Georgia
it's
wants to
all
be
gonna
number
fizzle
one?
out,
Do you think Georgia would rather be number one on October 24th or on December 1st?
I think if they're number one on October 24th, it's pretty difficult to move them from anywhere other than one.
But it's not. You know what I'm saying? Because but that's the problem. That's the problem with college football right there. That's the problem.
But they're gonna play. But they're gonna play the teams and win. You're not
going to play. That's going to
they're gonna play their conference games now.
I know, but hold on. But looking at their conference, who is Georgia going to play for the rest of the season that will have you say, "See, that win solidified me having them at number 1 3 weeks ago"? Nobody.
They're solidified at that position because that's how the era of the preseason rankings work. Like I said, I'm on board with not starting the rankings until October 8th.
But
I'm on board with
getting that. I think people would still put Georgia number 1 because they're the national champion.
After the 4 games, I think your ranking after 4 games would make more sense. But just the philosophy of how they rank teams, it's unlikely that you're going to get a team jump from 4 to 1 unless it's Alabama. And most teams don't jump the number 1 team. Most teams don't. If Georgia kicked the last second field goal to beat Texas A&M with a backup quarterback, and then Alabama beat LSU 40-6, then yeah, I think that happens. But because that tends to not happen in the same week, you as an individual who is looking like, oh, Georgia's barely this good.
But the problem
because you don't have the other event to support.
But the problem is that they're moving everybody else. So when Florida State played that close game against
that much,
yes, they do. When Florida State played Boston College, they moved down. When Ohio State played a close game against somebody, they moved down. USC moved down. Like Georgia,
who moved? What game or by the 2, 3, 4, or 5 team was so definitively better to the point where you got to move Georgia down in that week, not like the week before and then the week after.
Going off of the start of this conversation, as dominant as Michigan has been, they would have an argument. Going off of.
But who did Michigan play that says they played a team and beat them so badly that we should move them? That's what I'm saying. It all has to happen.
But Georgia also played their first 4 games at home. As did
that's
Michigan.
Your leverage. I mean,
I'm going somewhere with this. But Ohio State went on the road and beat Notre Dame, who turned around and beat USC. So why can't I?
Because they just beat USC?
No. And now that Ohio State, they had the Notre Dame win, then Penn State came in there like number 6 or number 7, and they beat Penn State. So now why can't I move Ohio State a little higher?
That's what I mean, because you have too many yes, these are facts. I'm not saying that what you're saying is hypothetical, but what you have is, because this team beat this team. I'm like, well, Utah beat USC. USC was beating the brakes off everyone. Utah should be higher than Utah should be 7. And then it's like, wait, hold on. Or Oregon State is 11. So how does Utah get above Oregon State?
Right.
Like, they didn't beat USC the way that Utah won by 2, but it was like on the road. I'm like, okay, that's the thing is like when you introduce so many different caveats, when it's simply who won, when did you win? That's it. So if you look at it that way, because excuse me, like you said, it all plays itself out. You're not going to get a perfect ranking. And I get that you may feel that Michigan is number 1. But if Georgia truly isn't the number 1 team, they will have their hiccup. And then that's when you can call in.
But that would probably happen in the playoff because their schedule is so weak. So like if they make it through undefeated, even if they get to the SEC title game and potentially lose to Alabama, there's still going to be an avenue for Georgia to get in.
But that was always going to be the case when you're from that conference. When you're from that conference and you have that level, when you have that winning leverage,
teams. And that's why we need 12 teams.
But the 12 teams, we talked about this.
No, that's
7
fine.
months ago,
that's fine. But it's still,
you're still gonna get 3 or 4 teams that don't belong because one team is going to be really good, and the narrative is going to be, well, Georgia beat Tennessee, but Tennessee's only loss was to Georgia, and it was by a touchdown. And
but I think you can live with that, minus what we're talking about right now, where Georgia beat, UAB and UT Martin, and they struggled with Auburn. Like, that's a different conversation.
But that same conversation can be met with the LSU FSU conversation, because in the first half it looked like a tight game, and then FSU pulled away, and then LSU lost to Ole Miss. They had a tight game against Missouri.
But that's the problem, because where's Ole Miss right now? Where's Ole Miss right now?
Ole Miss right now is 12.
Exactly. So I'm gonna penalize them. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't have it both ways. It can't be. I'm gonna give them extra credit for beating bad teams and not knock them for beating bad teams.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna take away from them. But I'm gonna take away from them for losing the good teams. So you can't have it both ways.
Utah at 13 with 1 loss to Oregon State. Are you willing to put LSU above Utah with the 1 loss? Are you willing to put LSU above Oregon State with the 1 loss? Or are you willing to move Ole Miss to 11, Oregon State to 12, or Oregon State to 13, and LSU to 12?
LSU doesn't have the wins to do it.
They only have 2 losses and 1 loss.
But they don't have the wins. But they don't have the wins.
And Ole Miss at 11.
But they don't have the wins. Like, Notre Dame has the win over Duke. And when you look at they lost to Ohio State on the last play of the game.
Not even top 14.
They're like 16 or 17.
But they're not top 14.
Why is 14 the cutoff? Why is 14? Like, you just made that up.
Oh, because I went to 12.
You went to 13 because Utah was 13. Exactly.
Because I was talking, because that's the last of the 1-loss teams. 14 is 2 losses. But
Louisville only got 1 loss.
Yeah, but like of the major ones they got, they stopped at.
You can't have it.
That was the
ways.
first. I stopped at 13 because 14 had 2 losses. So I was like, okay,
I know, but that's
I'm gonna go 1 through 13 because they have the 14 ranked team with 2 losses.
That's what I'm saying. So in that scenario, why not have all the 1 losses ahead of the 2 losses?
Louisville is like, how am I below a 2-loss team and only got 1 loss? That's why you got to let it pan out. And I get your discussion as far as like putting Georgia because they haven't played anyone. But if we got into the minutia and we got into the analytics of it, it's probably a lot of teams other than the marquee game that we watched on NBC, ABC, or CBS or ESPN. Most of these teams probably haven't played that tough of a schedule.
No, but I think most teams have at least one. Like Missouri, right? They're good. But they've played Kentucky and LSU already. You know what I mean?
But they don't get to manipulate their schedule because they don't have the leverage because they're not.
No, I know. I'm just making a point. I'm just making a point. You know, Notre Dame, even though they got the 2 losses, they've played Ohio State, Duke, and Louisville. Georgia hasn't even played one team that's semi-equivalent to that.
Yeah, and if they play 3 bad games, or if they have some tough games where they have to play Arkansas, they got to play, and they have a tough game, their tough game will come.
But they're going to get a pass because they're going to say that's the SEC. They're going to get a pass.
It's not their fault that the teams that they played, like for instance, no one was expecting 5 Pac-12 teams to be in the top 15 this late in the season.
And why are they in the top 15?
Because they only have one. Well, right now you
because
got
of their
Oregon,
records. Because of
Utah,
their records.
Oregon State, Washington. So it's
they're in there. They're in there because of their records. That's why they're ranked right now.
Yeah, but so if you looked at the schedule, that's a goaltend, but they didn't call it. If you looked at the schedule, you wouldn't have thought that You wouldn't have thought that Washington would be undefeated. You wouldn't have thought that Oregon and Utah both had one loss.
I had Washington as a playoff team, remember? So I would have, you know
Probably,
what I mean?
Yeah. And then Oregon State with one loss, and
I had Oregon State in the Pac-12 title game against Washington.
Yeah, Utah losing to USC.
Yeah, I had Utah losing to USC. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's like it all happens.
I got Utah losing to Oregon this weekend. You know what I mean? Like it all happens. Like it'll
all feather itself out.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So if it's going to play
the initial
right, but that's my point. If it's going to work itself out, why do I have to play this game of I have to put Georgia at number 1? Because if it's all going to work out, it's all going to work out.
Lose it. They didn't do anything to lose it.
They didn't do anything to get it.
They got it off the preseason ranking, which I'm not a big fan of the preseason ranking. But if we're going to allow the preseason ranking
but
to
the
exist,
preseason ranking has nothing to do with the playoff ranking.
That benefits from the preseason ranking.
The preseason ranking has nothing to do with the playoff ranking. According to the playoff committee, they start fresh every week 1 to 25. You know what I'm saying? So
why does it look identical damn near every week?
Because they full of shit just like college football is.
There we go. So why are we losing our mind over it? It's a great conversation, but because of the caveats and the nuance to it, it's just as simple as they're gonna pick the teams that they're gonna pick, and cream has to rise to the top. They've already put teams there. Like I said, we talked about this before. Like, listen, October 8th should be the week of October 8th, after they play 4 to maybe 5 games, is when the first top 25 rankings will come out, because that's when you can use they've only averaged this many points against us, or their defense is ranked here, and you can really make a real ranking of the college football, because they all have a very frivolous, convoluted kind of schedule.
Or
that could be the caveat. Like, listen, you all play this cupcake schedule, and we'll give you credit. That's where a game like Oregon versus Alabama week 1 will give both of those teams credit, because right now it doesn't.
Or, you ready for the title of our episode? Or fuck the AP. Get rid of the AP altogether and not have a ranking until now with the college football ranking.
Listen, man, it's a bunch of people going to liberal arts schools trying to get degrees in journalism. They need a job when they're done. We got all these blogs and podcasts taking up all their jobs. They need something. I don't mind. Like I said, I don't mind the system, even if I don't like the system wholeheartedly. As long as you keep it consistent with how you operate it, then I can adopt it. I can understand that. If you're going to change it, that's fine. But as far as like the way they have it, the way they currently have it set up, is like, this is what it looks like. And it tends to play itself out. It's very rare that you get the whole Ohio State at 6, and then Cordell Jones goes out in the Big Ten championship and wins, and they move from 6 to 4. That was very obvious. The Alabama getting in with not playing the conference championship, that was very obvious. But every year since then, it's been, all right, we'll throw Cincinnati in there. They get mollywopped. We'll throw Michigan State in there with, what's the boy name? Connor Cook, and they got mollywopped. We'll put Hawaii in the BCS game, and they got mollywopped. So
Boise didn't get mollywopped, you know what I'm saying? But that's what I'm saying. That's why you got to let it happen. Like, you can't just be like, this has happened, so therefore I'm never going to do it again. Like,
no, they put them in. Like, they put them in. They put Washington in with the left-handed quarterback,
Browning.
So they put these teams in. They put them in. It's not like they avoid putting them in.
No, but usually it's because they use
some other teams don't do their part.
Well, it's because they use the record. Because, like, you know, there is a world where a 10-2 team could be better than an 11-2 or 11-1 team.
But that was the argument that Nick Saban was trying to make last year live on television, because he was saying, "You mean to tell me that we're not?" Because who ended up making the Final Four last year? I know we're about to get into the NBA.
It was Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and
Ohio State.
Ohio State, yeah.
Yeah. So his argument, he was on air during, I think it was the SEC championship.
Yeah, they lost both games on the last play.
And he was like, and he said it. He was like, this is before the college football player ranking came out. So even with 2 losses, he was still trying to lobby, put loud on TV why his team should be in. And it's like, at some point, we have to draw a line. Like, I get that you want to go with this narrative of the best team. Because I remember Kirk Hershey said something like a couple of years back, maybe like 6 or 7 years back, is like, you need to tell me a 10-2 Alabama isn't better than an 11-1 Michigan State or something along. I don't know if those are the teams, but it's like, that's not the conversation. The conversation is you play the games. Now we have to make decisions based off the games.
Which goes back to my original statement when we started this conversation. Don't tell me that the games don't matter when you're going to do shit like that.
But they don't put, but thankfully they haven't put a 10-2 team in, and every team has gotten their way by being either 11-1 or 12-0. 13-0 depends on how many games you play. I think LSU went to the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're like 13-0. So everyone's kind of done their part, and we haven't had the whole Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, all of them 10-2, and then these other teams undefeated.
Well, maybe this will be the year. You know, saying maybe we'll get 6 11-1 teams and a 12-0 team. And then we go, what the hell? We need 12 teams.
and then next year we'll get 4 SEC teams.
Yeah, but it is opening night. You know, we got Golden State 86, Phoenix 80 or 88-80 starting the fourth quarter now. You know, Phoenix had their 15-point lead deteriorate. Now they're down 8. So, you know,
47-35.
As I mentioned, you know, Bradley Beal is not with us today. You know, he decided to load manage in the first game of the season. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, you know what I'm saying? So, NBA is here. James Harden still not at practice. You know, Giannis signed his 3-year, $186 million
I saw that. I did that math last night and went to sleep. I saw that. I turned off Netflix. I did the math. I set my alarm and threw the phone down so I can go to work and get my $60,000 year job,
right?
And you get $60 million to play basketball. It's bananas. I mean, I get it. You got to do it. You got to make that move. He was gonna leave potentially. You don't want a Dame Lillard situation where you're paying him this crazy amount of money and he's not producing. That's a travel. I don't know why they never call that commingle with the effort. I like what Milwaukee did. I think I'm liking more. I want a spread. I want more talent in the league. I want dynamic duos on 14 teams. I want Embiid and Harden to work. I want Butler, Bam to work. I want Giannis, Dame to work. I want Paolo and Wagner to work.
Yeah.
I want Wemby and whoever they can get to be the second fiddle.
Well, they got Devin Vassell that they just paid. Do you want Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey to work?
I don't know how that works with what's the boy name? The Thompson twin there. I want Kyrie and Luka to work. I saw that AD and LeBron worked a few years back. I just don't think that realistically the history of AD playing a lot of games and LeBron just being a year 21. It was like I was in the Air Force almost 22 years. By 19, I was like, I don't know if I really want to get up to go to work.
When LeBron joined the NBA,
I would start sending text messages like, yo, man, just email me turnover. I'll be there.
When LeBron first played when he played his first NBA game, I was already in for like 4 years.
So he played his game in 2003, correct?
Yeah.
So the season starts October 03.
Yep.
I was at my third base. Had already deployed once. Me and you deployed to the same location. And I had my own apartment. And I was testing for staff like a few months later.
Yeah, like
I had a whole I lived a whole I was like 22 at the time. So the expectation that he's gonna get you a lot of games, it just doesn't seem realistic. The combo of I like Chris Paul and Steph. I don't know how that's gonna be sustainable with two small guards that don't really give you anything other than just an offensive headache. Because I don't know if they do anything defensively or just other than just tiring out your guys who have the guard.
We gotta see if Clay's legs can hold up too.
Clay out there missing jump shots like he's 65 and he only 30.
That's what I'm trying to say. The empire is over. The evil empire has fallen.
And that could be the case. Or maybe he does a Tim Duncan thing. I know Steve Kerr was a Popovich, I don't want to say I'm a Popovich disciple, but he played under him when he coached. Maybe Clay gets a Tim Duncan treatment where he gives you 18.
Clay trying to get paid though. He's trying to get one more contract.
They gave Draymond a contract, and Draymond's been a triple single for 2 years, and they still.
I don't think they're gonna give Clay the contract because at some point you gotta. I mean, you know what I mean. At some point
they gave him 2 years worth of he got a $200 million deal.
No, I know, but at some point you just gotta pull.
I don't know what else you can ask for.
You can only save the veteran.
You can't go out there. You can't go out there asking for more money, i.e., what James Harden did. Hence, why he signed his. He opted into his contract and then demanded the trade.
You can only keep the vegetable live for so long. You can only keep the vegetable live for so long, But so we picked our finals the other day. We picked both of us picked Denver and Boston. I picked Denver to win. You picked Boston to win.
Which is shock. I don't know if that
I mean, this is how I'm looking at it. In the East, the only other team I can consider is Milwaukee. That's the only other team I can consider. Philly's got too much turmoil going on. Cleveland's got the whole Donovan Mitchell ain't going to re-sign. They don't give Evan Mobley the ball enough anyway. The Knicks got Julius Randle. That's enough said.
The Knicks are the Knicks. Thibodeau's a head coach. He's going to work him to death.
Yeah.
The same thing with Stan Van Gundy. He was notorious for these practices to where guys just basically – Gilbert Arenas said, listen, you got me for the game, you got me for practice. Pick one.
Yeah, the Heat, they lost Strus and Vincent, off of their team, so Martin's going to get more minutes. Kyle Lowry's another year older,
Kyle Lowry is LeBron's age,
Kevin Love's another year older.
He's LeBron's age.
You got Haywood Smith going to come save the day. Jaime Jaquez, you're relying on a rookie. And Jovic, you gotta hope that
they should have pursued harder to get Dame, whatever.
Or they should have got Drew after they didn't get Dame.
They should have gone and got they should have went out and tried to get a big. That way they can feel a little comfortable, maybe moving Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson because they got the big that's going to get you second chance points. I don't know if Ayton was really ever on the mark. I don't know how you get Ayton and Dame Lillard and that 3-point take.
That's dominating to you.
Yeah, he's gonna have he's gonna have the same year he's having in Phoenix. It's gonna be 18-10, except he's gonna shoot more shots. Well, I'm not trying it just.
So in the West, the West can be a little more topsy-turvy than the East. I think the East is literally those two teams, unless something happens at the trade deadline. Philly gets rid of Harden and gets something back. I think it's just those two teams.
For Harden, and it's pretty quirky. It's going to relate to some other players. It's pretty little thing.
Phoenix on an 11-0 run, just like that.
Yeah. So it's pay to stay away until we give you away to someone who's willing to pay.
There you go.
So he's going to be on the bench like Al Horford was, Oladipo, John Wall.
He's going to end up with the Clippers. I don't know who else is out there that
they rejected that trade. I don't understand the
Clippers. I don't understand the Clippers. Terrence Mann is not a young dude. He's 27 and
that's young compared to James Harden.
Compared to James Harden, yeah. Compared to James Harden, yeah.
He's an NBA 27. That's like a real life 22.
His career high is 8.8 points a game.
Yeah, but do you want the headache of James Harden?
If I think this is
I
the
can give up
last
James
year,
Harden, get you what?
if I think this is the last year of
Your
the
dynastic
experiment,
attempt.
yeah, like why not?
What am I doing next year?
Next year you start over because you're probably gonna have to do that anyway.
If I bring in James Harden,
because you're keeping one of the two, maybe Kawhi or Paul George. You probably ain't keeping both.
I think they're probably.
I would just blow the whole thing up. I would just
you're gonna blow the whole thing up. More likely you're gonna blow the whole thing up.
But you kind of can't because you got the new arena opening next year. So you need a face. You need something. You're not the Lakers. You're not the Lakers. You know, you need something.
That depends on how far away the stadium is.
It's in Inglewood.
On how easy it is to get to the stadium.
Uh-huh.
And how dope it is. If it's easy to get to and the area around it is dope, because I think SoFi, I remember the first saw the prototypes for SoFi, it's probably like 2016. I was in my office, 2016, 2017. The stadium costs like $1 billion change, but the entire renovation around it, which I think is in Inglewood, was like 2.1 billion. So shops, restaurants, bars, nightclubs, go-kart, Top Golf, stuff like that. So if you build your basketball stadium on the fringes of that, like just a part of that, like that new community, I think you can get people there. You're gonna need a star. The NBA will make sure that LA gets a star in some form or fashion, whether it's Booker, whether it's, I'm trying to think who would be available. Man, it's gonna be tough. You have to it's gonna be tough because I don't think there's anybody, because I don't know who's young and is a star that's dynamic enough. Like if you think about the All-Star team, maybe
somebody like Ja Morant.
Maybe you could squeeze Kyrie from Dallas, but I don't know if that's enough. Maybe you can get Luka. Maybe you throw the world that Mark Cuban is a businessman, and you get Luka, and Luka opens your new stadium next year. But as far as like any star under 27,
Donovan Mitchell,
is he enough? Is he a marquee? Is he a big enough marquee for your average basketball fan?
Maybe not.
That's the thing with the NBA, and that I wrote this down as part of my notes, is that there's so many teams that are already planning for 2024. I don't think there's a lot of teams that are going into 2023 thinking, oh, we can compete for one of these top 8 spots, like the top 4 of the East, top 4 of the West. I'm not sure Chicago's thinking like, yo, I think this team has a chance to make a run. I know Memphis is probably thinking that, but there's star players out for 25 games. LA is thinking it. Yeah.
I'm trying to see who's going to be a free agent after this season.
Okay, keep going. I'm just like kind of spitballing who, like what team or what players or what group of players the NBA doesn't do a good job of allowing. I don't know if the NBA media, the NBA fans, but they don't do the teams justice by allowing it to develop, because Jokic and Jamal Murray got drafted 2014, 2015.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really get good until the bubble.
Right.
You know, that's 4 or 5 seasons. Steph and Clay, they had a couple of years, ankle injuries with Steph. They gave him the contract. Draymond never got better. Draymond got to a point where he was good for that team, but Draymond's numbers don't say, oh, this dude's gonna go from 12 points, 16 points to 22 points. So there's not a lot of free agents.
This list is bad.
Pascal
Siakam, Buddy Hield,
no,
C.D. Osman, Royce O'Neal, Tobias Harris, Clay, Joe Harris.
All dudes over 30.
As I go down the list, Markelle
Anybody under
Fultz.
25?
Nope.
Markelle Fultz probably the youngest guy.
Yeah, because he's the same age as Tatum, probably.
Yeah, because they're in the same draft.
Yeah. That's it. Unless you're going Malik Monk, you know what I'm saying? He get the computers Putin.
I think I just saw a New Balance commercial. I think they got a better lineup. DeJounte Murray. I think maybe you could squeeze Trae Young out of Atlanta. But realistically, teams need to just buckle down and just be willing to go 51-31 and grind through the playoffs. Be willing to go, 48 and 44.
I don't know. I might call Memphis and see what they want for Ja.
Nah, you can't. You're not moving him. They're not moving him.
What if he might want to move? I don't know.
They gonna give him $200 million for 3 years on his next contract extension. That's the thing. You have to draft and play your guy and let your guy that you draft go off.
Hey, let something not go right in New Orleans. Call about Zion.
Well, I think Zion is a good piece, but because he has potential, New Orleans is gonna want your whole team.
LaMelo.
New Orleans is gonna be like Rumpelstiltskin. They're gonna want your firstborn. LaMelo, maybe. Jordan's gone.
Because I think Charlotte's gonna be the worst team in the league, or at least bottom 4 or 5.
Oh, yeah, they're definitely gonna be one of the 10 teams that don't make the playoffs. Considering that 66.7% of the league makes playoffs. I think LaMelo might be a good move, but the problem is he's gonna want to go somewhere dope. And all the teams,
it's LA.
All the teams in dope cities have championship aspirations, so they're not gonna give up what Charlotte wants to get LaMelo. That's the problem, is that if he wanted to go to Chicago, if you want to go to Detroit can give like the middle, like, because I used to think you were kind of bloviating when you came to these market arguments. Like, oh, the small market. I'm like, come on, man. Everyone's playing wherever it's on TVs, on Instagram. But LA's not giving up enough to get LaMelo Ball just to be a marquee team because they're already LA.
You want to see evidence of small market? All you gotta do is watch how often these TV shows talk about the Nuggets.
Just won the championship.
Exactly. You know what I'm
saying? Well, on top of that, and their star, like Jamal Murray's cool, but he's not like, would you talk to Jamal Murray for an hour?
Why not?
Have you what has he said? He's like, oh man, I really like.
What coverage has he got to say anything?
I could talk to Pat Bev if Pat Bev wanted to be the third screen in this podcast, I think it'd be dope. Gilbert Arenas, I think it'd be dope.
I don't know. I don't know how many opportunities Jamal Murray has had to show his personality. I just don't know that. I'm not trying to say that.
LaMelo Ball has been on one of the worst teams, but his dad got him a TV show.
Yeah, but that was his dad. Like his dad, that wasn't LaMelo. That was LeVar.
Okay, Devin Booker. Devin Booker started dating a Jenner Kardashian.
Devin Booker ain't got no personality to me.
Yeah, but at least he got there. Kyle Kuzma with his outfits, with his beige suits and baby blue suits and all that other stuff.
So I need Jamal Murray to go out here and get Meg Thee Stallion then.
Yo, that's the thing. You got
what was that album? Real Whores, Real Ass Whores, or whatever. Is that what's called?
That's ridiculous. That's the City Girls, I guess. It's too many games to be like, you got 82 games. It's very long. It's a lot like the baseball season as far as like the time on the calendar. So people don't have. Oh my goodness, this is so dramatic. So I think people don't have the time to really keep up But these teams bail on a lot of these players way too soon, to the point where teams like Houston are they're gonna throw on the towel on their team pretty soon, because they gave out a bunch of money to Van Fleet and Dylan Brooks. It won't fit, so they're gonna cancel, and they're gonna just send these guys to other. They're gonna send them to Indiana, or they're gonna send them. Everyone for some reason seems to be wanting to trade. Everyone's like, stretch for expiring contracts. It's like, if I'm a trade a guy, I want to trade a guy for someone who's gonna come on my team and help.
But that's what
even if I got to get
but that's the idea. But that's the idea. Let me clear this money, and now I'm gonna go into free agency and dip in the pool and get something.
Yeah, but how often in the last few years has a big free agent, Blake Griffin, signed to Detroit? Then Jeremy Grant did it. But when Dame signed his big deal in Portland, Kevin Durant didn't come to Portland to visit. He went to Brooklyn.
I still don't understand.
I think a lot of people working on their post NBA brands and things.
But you could do that anywhere. Like, you know what I mean? Like you just said,
from any city.
You know what I mean? Like they just want the easy way out, I guess, is all it boils down to. New York is easy. LA is easy.
San Francisco's easy. Yeah. Miami is easy. Milwaukee's not easy. Detroit's not easy.
Orlando. Dave Lillard made a whole rap career. You know,
and I haven't heard a single song.
Well, I heard I heard him and Shaq dissing each other. That was about it. Lonzo got an album.
Once again, I didn't hear Kobe's album or Allen Iverson's album either. So it was like,
hey, Allen Iverson, lucky he ain't put that song out nowadays. You know, with that LGBT stuff, he was wilding in that song. But
I didn't even hear that. Like, I just know Drake said, "Sports and raps are so synonymous. We want to be them. They want to be us."
I ain't like his rap name though. He could have did better than Jules, you know what I'm saying? But
that was AI.
Yeah.
He just called himself AI.
You know what I'm saying? But hey, like, you know what I'm saying? So we got this, you know, like I said, we picked our finals and everything. We talked about our playoff teams. I wanted to go a little different. So, Mr. Logical, I would like to know, who do you think is going to win MVP this year?
I'm trying to think of who's a solo act. That's why my eyes are closed. I'm trying to think. I want to say Giannis. I can't say Giannis because he got Dame.
I'm going to follow my thoughts from last year, and I'm going to say that Jason Tatum wins the MVP this year.
Nah, because he has another max player on his team.
Yeah, but he's the alpha. I mean, he's the NBA. The NBA is trying to push Jason Tatum, or like they're.
I don't think so. Think about.
They got the Subway commercials, and you know he all that.
You ever had a Subway sandwich? It's terrible.
It is terrible.
Every time
they had Draymond too.
Every time somebody walk in my office with Subway, I yell at them. I'm like, we live in Jersey. They make the best sandwiches on earth in the state of New Jersey. Don't at me. Don't argue with me. Just come here and get one. Like the MVP.
Oh, we are so not going to get into this baseball thing tonight.
We probably won't. We'll have it fresh. We'll have it fresh with the World Series preview, which starts in a couple of days.
Yeah, but go ahead. Yeah,
I don't think there's, because Luka has Kyrie.
I mean, you got Embiid if he can get if Embiid,
but Embiid, his team is going to be in such disarray.
If Philly,
I don't know, they win games.
If Harden doesn't play,
he won't
for a long period of time, or whatever, and Philly is still a top 3 seed. You know, I think he could be in the conversation.
Be a top 3 seed. He won't get it because he's gonna get it's gonna be the Giannis part where gave you. You won MVP, and then you fizzled out in the, because they gave them. He fizzled out in the playoffs. Embiid is going to be, what's today? Today is October 25th here in Jersey. Man, by Thanksgiving, it's going to be reports that he wants out of Philly.
I think we
because
probably won't even make it that far.
Philly won't give James Harden a deal that he feels he deserves. He might end up being as like I said situation. Griff, I'm just projecting, I'm just guessing,
Right.
prognosticating. I could be completely wrong. I literally have a ladybug crawling all over me. Like chill out, sit right there. So it might be a situation where he just back tightness doesn't play. James Harden doesn't play. Top four. I think Donovan Mitchell might give you an opportunity because he'll be somewhat of a solo.
You know what? I'm so done with you right now.
I don't think like
I said that the other day.
Yeah, I don't because like I'm thinking about it now is like because so many guys are paired up to win championships. I don't know if those guys who are in that Verizon bundle.
Yeah, I said that the other day.
You Progressive Auto bundle insurance are gonna like play harder.
I brought him up the other day, and you tried to call me Boo Boo the Fool.
I'm what about to think of guys who are gonna be one?
Okay, here's one. Top 4 seed. Does that get the MVP for SGA?
He has a shot because he'll be the man on a team that people are hoping rises. They're gonna have the stars. They're gonna have the young faces, with Giddey being international, Chet Holmgren being a unicorn of a tall white American-born basketball player. That's marketability. SGA Canadian. Swaggy, like the Louis Vuitton luggage and the points. Like I think that'll work, but they're gonna have to like have one of those seasons where it's like they're like 30-17 after 30-15
top
they're gonna have
seed.
to have one of those years.
Top 4 seed.
One of a big year.
Top 4 seed. Year. Zion get it.
I like Zion because I don't know if Brandon Ingram's one of those guys I think would be moved at the trade deadline because I don't know how much he's vibing with New Orleans. And if that's the case, I think he has a shot. Ja Morant, no, he's not gonna play enough games. But Zion might not play the 65 games.
Right. Or do the MVP voters go on the Jokic apology tour?
And give it back to Jokic
and be like, "Yo, we messed up, man. We shouldn't have did that."
Jokic is he's gonna expend the least amount of energy and get the maximum amount of points. So it could be that situation where
all right, here's one.
Like he's already got one triple-double on the year, night one against the Lakers at home, post championship, yada yada yada. I think
last one.
It didn't look like he looked very tired in his interview.
Last one, top 4 seed, Jimmy Butler.
No, because he won't average 27 points.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going with Jason Tatum. Obviously, Embiid won it last year. All right. So
I like your SGA. I think if I check the FanDuel, if I download it, because I don't like to download it after I drink because I start gambling. I might check it tomorrow when I'm sober at work. Right. I like your SGA pick. You always hit me with the new information I don't really think about.
So I got Coach of the Year. So last year, obviously, Mike Brown won Coach of the Year with his job in Sacramento. So this year, we've already been talking about him. So this team, so I might as well just go with it. I'm gonna go with BJ Bickerstaff. From Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Yeah, maybe they take Philly's place in that top 3. But here's some other names that I was thinking about. Taylor Jenkins. What does Memphis go? We talked about it. What's their record without Ja? They go 17-8, 18-7.
Nah, they don't get it done.
Can he build momentum? Okay.
They're gonna hold Ja's behavior over the last season against him. Like you should have kept him in check, and we're not gonna give you shit for you not having him because you didn't keep him in check. Yeah.
So if we talked about SGA, I gotta talk about Mark Daigneault, right?
Absolutely. I think that might be because I think OKC has the opportunity to be your surprise team because I don't think a lot of teams out west, Kuminga, you can't shoot free throws, dog. I don't think a lot of teams out west. I like Minnesota. I think Minnesota.
Yeah, I was going to say Chris Finch. I was going to yeah. That was the next name I was going to say.
Yeah, I like Minnesota because I think Cat. If Cat can recognize that Anthony Edwards is the man and take a back seat, I think Anthony Edwards has an MVP.
He also missed something like 40 games last year too.
Yeah, but in the same sense, I was a man on these streets before everybody else came here.
The game is the game.
So I like OKC's coach. I like Minnesota's coach.
All right, how about
any of these top teams? I don't think so because they are literally going to every other top team kind of stack their team.
Well, how about this one?
Championships.
So I don't know if I can say top 4, so I'll just say top 5. Quinn Snyder
in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Nah, because I don't think Atlanta is going to be able to keep it. Atlanta's going to have more trade rumors for Trae Young, and they're not going to play good defense. DeJounte Murray and Trae Young is going to be, does this work? The questions will be, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? More than like a team like the Timberwolves or the Thunder. Jack Vaughn down in Orlando, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think he has a shot because they have young players and they might just go on a little run. I have a lack of faith in some of these.
Eric Gordon in the clutch. Got a 5-point game in San Francisco. Oh, Chris Paul wide open. Missed it. The rebound to Wardell, and he traveled and they didn't call it, and he hits the 3.
Let's see. That's not a travel. He dribbled.
Did he?
He dribbled. Yeah, he dribbled.
It didn't look like it to me. But
my stream glitched out a little bit, but he dribbled.
Okay. All right. So then you got most improved player, and I want everybody to know that I'm not a hater. So just because I'm not a hater, my most improved player is Shaedon Sharpe from Portland.
Is he going to get the run that you need to get that award?
Yeah, I think he's going to start. I think it'll be scooting him in the backcourt, Anthony Simons off the bench. But if it's not Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons could be the most improved player because he's going to get some new minutes.
You think it's going to be Portland? It's going to be kind of tough with that. For some reason, those teams that play way out west, that play late, it seems like the NBA voters don't watch him either.
Well, here's a name, Cade Cunningham.
I like that if they figure out where to put him, because if Thompson takes his minutes away, then he'll be labeled as a bust, and
he's not taking his minutes. That man was the number 1 pick. They're not taking his minutes.
But what lineup?
You put Ausar at the 3.
Is he big enough? Does he have the NBA body to guard Wemby?
He might be the same weight as Wemby.
Can he guard Paul George at the 3?
Why not? I mean, he's 6'7". Why not?
Yeah, a lot of people are 6'7". I mean,
he's a rookie.
Earlier who's
most
like
rookies
over 6 foot.
Most rookies can't defend Paul George.
So I would rather have him potentially trying to. I'd rather have him trying to defend Jordan Poole versus.
Well, his brother is the point guard, not him.
I'd have him at the 2. I'd have him somewhere.
Then where do you put Ivy then? Because Ivy's not a point.
One of them's gonna come off the bench. That's the problem when you draft these guys and you want to make it fit. I'm a few seconds behind you, so don't say anything. We're just gonna. Oh, that was a travel.
You just said, So then I got my 6th man of the year. This one was probably my easiest one.
Chris Paul.
And I am not being a homer, but I'm gonna go with Emmanuel quickly. As my 6th man of the year. He finished 2nd this past season to Malcolm Brogdon. Obviously Malcolm Brogdon.
I didn't think Malcolm Brogdon's impact off the bench was that great though. Like it didn't feel like
Dirk White made more impact coming in later in the year.
Yeah,
and Derek White could be a pick too, you know, for 6 man.
I didn't think Brogdon's impact off the bench was like award winning. Where if you think about like J.R. Smith when he came off the bench, when you think about Jamal Crawford,
it could have been a down year.
You think about a guy like J.J. Redick when he came off the bench, you know, like those guys seem to have a little bit more of a definite, definitive change of pace flow through it.
Right.
When James Harden, granted he was young, but when he came off the bench, it was like, oh, Harden's in the game now. I never thought, oh my God, Brogdon's in the game now. And I watched a lot of Boston games. It just was like, oh, Brogdon's in the game. So
maybe it could be Derek White.
So I mean, I like your picks. I'm not dumping on your picks. I just think that the NBA, they've done such a bad job of like making it interesting from October to April.
Rookie of the year. Automatically Wemby. We ain't picking nobody else.
Yeah, it's gonna be Wemby. Because even if they win 27 games, he'll have like 12 games. Like I saw something where he was they used the brick
and Phoenix
ball game. Brick.
108 to 104 win in San Francisco to start the season with no Bradley. Hey, there's Bradley Beal.
Look at his nice little expensive jacket. There was a coach, I believe it was somebody in the West. It might have been Dallas. But he had these like extensions on his arms that were like, I'm trying to get how ridiculous it was. It was like, if this is your regular arm, like the pads to like defend a jump shot, like a guy's putting in lane, he had this. Like he had two pads taped together on his arm like this. So to simulate the 7, I guess nearly 8-foot wingspan of Wembanyama, and every guy shooting the ball bricking. And it was a short coach. He just had the attachments on his arm.
Right.
And every shot that went up, it was like maybe 4 shots, a couple of layups, everything was bricked. So I think Wemby is going to be an easy pick because he's going to have more moments to where you saw the nutmeg, you went to the game, you're going to get a opportunity to see about realistically. I don't know what the tickets cost in San Antonio, but if they get hot, I don't know how many games you're going to go to.
I'm all about the vet ticks, baby. Yep. You know, vet ticks. I should have moved to Houston. I went on vet ticks today. They got tickets for the Warriors game on Sunday, the Lakers game a couple of days after that. And then they got like Milwaukee, like a week.
How far is Houston from San Antonio?
It's like 3 hours.
Oh yeah, I don't know about that. That's the weekend.
Not on the weeknight. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like we going to Galveston to fish or something kind of trip.
So if it is not Wemby, I'm going to pick Keontae George from Utah. You know,
playing in Utah, I don't know because Utah doesn't really allow a single player to shine.
I don't. Like, well, they got a new coach now. You know, they got Will Hardy now. Came from Boston now.
Yeah, but you know, it's still Utah. It's still very mundane, screen and roll.
I'm sure a lot of people.
I'll give you Scoot.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of people are probably going to pick Scoot. You know,
Scoot's going to get a lot of shots. If he shoots 29% from 3, then no.
If the Orlando Magic make the playoffs, like I think they can. You know, Anthony Black could get some votes, you know, but I just don't know how he'll be able to get numbers, you know.
It's not even the numbers. You got to have the spectacular because we talked about this in the sports group before. Carmelo Anthony was like rookie of the month for the Western Conference pretty much all year. The year him and LeBron were both rookies, and LeBron was rookie of the year. And LeBron had a lot of Rookie of the Month awards, but I don't think he won it like as much as Melo did.
Well, not even saying that LeBron didn't deserve it, but there was no way LeBron wasn't going to win Rookie of the Year.
It's the same.
Unless he straight up shit the bed. He was, you know,
he played all year long. He averaged like 20.7 points,
7
rebounds, 7 assists.
He
was the chosen one. He never looked like he was never in contention for this acclaim that people have bestowed upon him. So I think if Victor comes out and he averages 18, 11, 6 assists and 4 blocks, they'll be like, he's a longer version of Tim Duncan because he doesn't have the points.
Right.
But he'll have the rebounds, the assists, the blocks. San Antonio will still go, 27 and 52 or whatever the case may be. But he'll have those moments to where he gets he shoots a 3, gets a rebound and put back dunk. So he'll have those moments that we've seen.
Yeah, it'll stand out, be on a commercial in a highlight package. Yeah.
He'll be in a progressive commercial or some crazy like that.
And then
or
finally,
like a Buick commercial with Shaq. Neither one of them can fit in a damn Buick.
And then I know Shaquille O'Neal. That's what he said earlier.
Yeah. You're too big for that Buick.
And then you got your defensive player of the year.
LeBron James.
Jaren Jackson Jr. won that last year. So I'm gonna go with
Wendy.
Bam.
I'm gonna go with Wendy.
I'm gonna go with Bam Adebayo.
I'm gonna go with Wendy because I think he's gonna have so many games to where
he's gonna be the rookie of the year and defensive player of the year.
Because he's gonna contest so many shots. He's gonna average like 3.5 blocks, rebounds. He's gonna defend 3 through 5, and it's gonna look like it's gonna look the part.
So he gonna block Trae Young at the buzzer.
He's gonna block guys at the buzzer. He's gonna defend shots at the rim.
You know what I'm saying?
And maybe
he's gonna show y'all the real Julius Randle.
I mean, granted, yes, I know it sounds kind of crazy that they're gonna go 27 and 52 and he's gonna win it. I could be wrong. I'm just facetious with the whole 27-52. I don't know how they're gonna look. I'll personally give myself I'll give myself 6 or 7, maybe 8 games, 10 games to see how how is this gonna look? How these teams gonna look.
If San Antonio wins 30 games this year, it's a success.
Yeah, and if they win 40, then he'll win a couple of awards.
Oh, if he wins 40, he might get some MVP.
If they go 40 and 42, then he'll get some. But I don't know what the rest of the team looks like. I don't know if they
got Devin Vassell, they got Keldon Johnson, they got.
I don't know if they can make a move to get Trae Young in there and kind of like
Trae Jones. Points. They got Trae Jones running the point. They got your boy Jeremy Sohan.
Yeah, so they got a bunch of people we never heard of. Yeah, so I like that. I like it. I like it for.
Devin Vassell just got paid.
Yeah, cool.
And he had 25 points in the first half. He had 25 points in the first half the other night.
Now, if you were in San Antonio and you were at a Whataburger and he was in line, if he didn't look like an NBA player, like if he was sitting down, all you saw was his face.
Well, maybe I would know him just because of his hair. He's got.
If he was sitting with old boy with the baby blue hair, then yeah, probably.
No. He got his own crazy hair going on. It's not a
color, all of them
do. But the hairstyle, I think I would know it was him.
They all, and then the other guy has the other hair color, and then
I wouldn't know Trae Jones though.
Exactly.
Like I think I would be able to point out Julius Randle because whenever I think of him, I just imagine him near a construction site,
just throwing up bricks.
Yeah, so I think I could.
This Julius Randle thing, man. Did he slide Lindsay's DMs or something? Like, what's going on here? Why are you so mad at him? You're just so mad.
Well, I mean, we had to chill because for a while it was Easy Money Sniper. You know what I'm saying? We had to chill.
Well, he cut his hair and it's not super nappy on opening night. I give it a week though. I like one thing I did like about this Phoenix Golden State game is that I think they recognize that Devin Booker, even though Durant is Durant, the energy that Devin Booker can give you is better than what Durant can give you, even though Durant's super dynamic.
Right.
I think that's the argument that people had with the whole, is it Steph's teams or is it KD's team? It's like, he's the best player on those teams, but it's like, it's not the same.
He just hoops. That's it. He just comes out and plays basketball. Yeah.
It's just like
he ain't galvanizing nobody.
Yeah, it's a different thing where it's like, yes, Kevin Durant is dynamic. the one dribble pull up from.
Well, you were talking about your son. You were talking about your son and how like you know, like the team looks at him like, yo, like we need that moment right now. Like we need a speech or we need some words. Like Kevin Durant is the type that'll just walk up to you and you be like, yo, what's the move? And he'll just be like, just do what I do. And then he'll just go out there and hit a shot and then expect you to replicate what he did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yo, if it was that fucking easy, we wouldn't be losing right now.
Yeah, and Devin Booker is the type of player that's like, give me the ball. I want to give me the ball so I can demoralize the defense.
I got it. You know what he would say? He would say, come on and get in this backpack.
Negative.
That's what he would say. Come get in this backpack.
Negative. He's not Kobe. And all these players better stop talking about Kobe mentality because none of y'all have it. So
Devin Booker not a backpack guy?
Nah. He's a really good guy, but like keep in mind, they went to the NBA Finals because they built a team around them. Some guys are back. Like I think Steph's a backpack guy in spurts and moments,
except for like in the last 20 seconds.
In the last 20, but if you're up 8, he'll get you 11 or 12.
Yeah. If you
if you're up 5, he'll get you to 8 for sure.
You give Steph Curry an 8-point lead, you're gonna be down by 21 before you could blink.
Oh yeah, but if you are down 2,
you
down 4, it's a wrap. Just go ahead and let Kevin Love shut you down. But you like the game 5 in Boston when he dropped, what was it, 43 in the NBA Finals a couple years ago. You know, some guys just, Dame Lillard's one of those guys, they just never put a team around him that knew how to get in the backpack. They just was like, oh, this is a backpack.
No, that's the scary thing, man.
They just walked in a circle around him. Like,
now you
get
in.
Now
you ain't got to worry about Giannis trying to hit free throws now.
Yo, I mean, he hit him when they counted when he dropped the 50-point triple-double in the NBA Finals to win it all. Hey, like sometimes that can be it. Like we we'll go on our little closing statements. I think when I think about how difficult it is, because I watched a lot of sports. Like I said, I had my oldest son wrestled the track, played football. My youngest son basketball, lacrosse, football. And I've watched them like play these games. I watched their teams perform. I watched them cry at the end of games. I watched them cry at the end of matches. I watched my son sit here his senior year. My oldest son is probably like, he's probably like 6. I think he's like 6'5", 6'1". But because of like the way the wrestling team was set up, he was wrestling like 152 to 157. And I just sat there. We had white plates. And he just was sitting there with like 3 pieces of kale after school, after practice, after he played a football season at 175. Season's over, cuts weight for wrestling, and now he's sitting there and I'm watching him hold this piece of kale at 6:30 after he just got home off the bus from practice. But he has to eat something because he needs something to get him enough energy to get upstairs to his room so he can like shower and go to sleep and finish his homework. And it takes so much out of you to get to these points. And this was 17 years old at the time. So for an NBA player to drop 50 in a game 6 of the finals and win it all, finals MVP, and then people come back the following years like, I want to see you do it again. That's not something that happens. So I think people just kind of, you got to respect like what these guys went through to get to that point. The knock that I have on guys is when it seems as if I don't think you are prepared for next year. James Harden for the last few years has looked like he wasn't too concerned that another season was coming. Very similar to like Dwight Howard was talking about. It was like how you always injured. Like Kobe was on him. Like, well, how you always injured? Like, how are you not ready? The AD, Zion Williamson looking overweight. John Morant out here in these streets pulling out guns or lighters or firecrackers or whatever he was doing. So that kind of stuff is like, how are you not ready for the next season?
John Morant is going to be Omar and shit.
Yeah, when I've seen like my teenage, like I was deployed one year, and both of my sons had wrestling tournaments, and this is my son was probably, so I was deployed in 2018, so he was 9. He had to wrestle at like 94 pounds for the state tournament. So he wrestled morning tournament at under 100 pounds. He was like 97. Wrestled, won that tournament, and then the state qualifier started at like 4:00. So from like 1:00 to 3:30, he was in the high school gym on a treadmill in a sweatsuit to burn off 2 more pounds so he can weigh in to wrestle for state qualifiers the same day. And he's 9, and that was deployed. They sent me they sent me pictures, and they showed me they sent me the videos because he had won. And I was like, so I talked to him when I got back from my deployment about like that day and everything else. He was like, oh yeah, me and my oldest son's name Sabian, my youngest son's name Josiah. He's like, yeah. So yeah, I wrestled that morning, and then me and Sabian went in the locker room. I put on a hoodie, and I had to sweat off. I was like, wait, hold on. You mean like you stayed at the school? He's like, yeah, like the coach let us stay at the school because the wrestling team, the ROTC, was helping with it was like volunteer thing for the wrestling team and the ROTC. My oldest son was an ROTC and on the wrestling team, so they had to deal with the mats, the scores, and everything else. He was like, yeah, I rode the exercise bike for like 2 hours so I could make weight for the state qualifier to qualify for state. And I'm like, this is a 9-year-old. So if you're 24 years old, and I know you had to work, you've had to have days like that to where you work this hard to be prepared for a tournament, catching a flight somewhere, driving 8-10 hours to get to this, being on a bus, doing homework, skipping the prom. You did all this stuff to get to this NBA level. And then you come into the season talking about I want a new contract or trade me. It's just like it doesn't seem to match like your own intrinsic effort that you put into this.
Right.
So I think that's the knock. And I get that people say, oh, you don't know what it's like to do this. But it's like, yeah, but I know you worked hard as shit to do it. Why are you just letting it go to waste? Why are you just out here just treating it like, oh, this opportunity is going to come back around? No, it isn't. It's not. Like the clock ticks. I wrote down like these old players, like your clock it's getting close. The rest of your life is gonna be dope. I imagine like you're gonna be able to do whatever you want. You're gonna be able to watch your kids more likely. If you're 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", and you're creating offspring, they're probably gonna be at least 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2". So you get them in some other sport, male or female. But your time might be done. And it just amazes me that they treat it as if they have 4 or 5 years left. I'm like, no, LeBron had a lot of years. Tom Brady had a lot of years. Derek Jeter played a lot of years. Alex Rodriguez, that's how many years he played. He played a few years with Jeter. Jeter kept going, same team. And then he hit a walk-off single in his last at bat at Yankee Stadium. Like, it's...
that's why I like, I mean, side note, of course, but that's what makes Kareem so impressive to me. Like, because he did it in the era without all the stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you roll an ankle in 1974, you might be out 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, like you know what I'm saying?
Or you hobbled, like you hobbled for the rest of your life.
You know what I'm saying? He stuck around. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sticking around. We out of here for now. We be back on Thursday. Of course, we're going to have some picks. What I'm saying? We're going to have some baseball for you. World Series starts
against me.
World Series starts on Friday. Friday, if you will. You know what I mean? On Friday, Mr. Logical got his Virginia Tech Hokies going up against Syracuse. You know what I'm saying? So, like, we got some games this week. It is what it is.
Utah, 801.
Utah, hey, I'm telling you, this would have been the weekend to go to Utah with Oregon coming out there.
I was out there. They had no games. I just was out there drinking beers in the mountains.
I know. One of these days, I'm going to have to get out there. I saw Travis Hunter and Shadur at the Nuggets game,
Nuggets game. They better be prepared out there blowing leads.
Dante Moore is coming through. The talented Dante Moore is coming through. You know what I'm saying?
We like him. Don't yell at us on Facebook.
You know what I'm saying? Dante Moore, who? You
He
know,
had,
and then
he had a touchdown drive from the 1 yard line on 4th and 20.
you
so
know,
at
you know,
Utah.
and then yeah, we got all the games this weekend. We're gonna get into, you know, we're gonna make it happen, cocktail party and all of that. But for now, that is the one and only Mr. Logical. I am 2-5. We are Sports Reports is Ordered. Like, review, subscribe. It's all free. And then we'll see you in a few days. So holla back, people. I was trying to find the music, but I'm up here fumbling. It's midnight. Peace.
Y'all know the vibes.